From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
7 minutes past the hour. Thanks for waking up early in the morning. Giving thought to, will the anti-Israel protesters be treated like January 6th? Now, they should be treated as harshly as January 6th protesters have been treated, and obviously jailed and had their constitutional rights taken away and all kinds of things. They've been jailed years. A lot of bad things in this administration. But already we see criminal charges being dismissed. Quietly, they say a deal was made to drop all charges. Why? This is far worse than walking into the U.S. Capitol building. And in some cases, people have had their freedoms taken away that never even walked into the Capitol building, just were near the Capitol building. There's actually been instances where people have been arrested that weren't even there. Yeah, that's the America that we now live in. But not enough people want to believe the truth. It's getting there, but it still has a ways to go. Will they be treated like January 6th? Well, the evidence already shows you that they will not be. Columbia University has switched to a hybrid remote learning model for the rest of this semester. Hundreds are also protesting at Yale University and elsewhere. And I just want to hear more people, not you. I'm not coming down on you, but not enough people are calling this out. This is not free speech. Calling for the extermination of Jews is not free speech in America or anywhere. There have been a few that have spoken out. Rabbi Yaakov Menken, managing director of the Coalition for Jewish Values, he is cautioning what he calls a troubling choice between Jews and anti-Semitic barbarians. Directly speaking about what's been happening at Columbia University. What is this president of Columbia University? Shafiq, I think it is. Let me write that down while I can't even remember it. What a terrible, absolutely terrible example. I think it's Shafik, Shafiq. What an awful, God, I don't even know why I remember that name. I don't even want to remember it. Awful, awful example about everything that's wrong in education. Can't get the job done, won't resign, they won't fire her. All kinds of calls for the termination of so-called President Shafiq. Menken, Rabbi Menken, has been emphasizing the gravity of the situation, quote, saying university administrators are clearly faced with a choice right now between Jews and anti-Semitic barbarians, as just became explicit at Columbia. And they are so far choosing the barbarians. And we have to see which way that goes. What does that mean in America, he questions. Unbelievable. Further, quote, well, now, actually, about Columbia going virtual. That was actually in response to the rabbi, quote, saying, "I'm very sorry to write this, but your own safety, you need to go home. You cannot be at Columbia." Can you believe? I don't even know what the tuition is at Columbia, but it's staggering. Can you believe the amount of money? And you're not safe? God. How did we let Joe Biden do this to our country? How are we allowing this? I'm sorry. Just because these people are in there, we don't have to take this. The entire slate, of course, no Democrats do it. That's our problem. These scumbag Democrats are our problem. The entire slate of New York Republicans in the House of Representatives have called for the resignation of Columbia University President Shafiq. I believe her first name is Manouche. This is amid the pro-Palestinian, let's call it what it is, pro-Hamas protests. Led by, as usual, she's fantastic, Elise Stefanik. The 10 lawmakers signed a letter. Shame on the Democrats. How can you not sign on to this? 10 Republican lawmakers signed a letter claiming Columbia's campus is roiled by, quote, anarchy, and that Shafiq has failed her obligation to provide a safe learning environment. Yeah, think. Hundreds of demonstrators, I think like 100 and some, were supposedly arrested. Do you know that they have to request help from the police and they won't do it? It's like January 6th all over again. These Democrats are just sick. Quote, the situation unfolding on campus right now is a direct product of your policies and misguided decisions. This is right from the letter. Quote, based on these recent events and your testimony, her testimony was terrible, by the way. It's sort of, there's just too much going on. It should have been roundly panned. It really wasn't. It wasn't complimented either. It was just bad, and it didn't register on the Richter scale because there's just earthquakes going all over the place. Yeah, that was bad, but I don't have time to think about that. Quote, based on the recent events and your testimony in front of Congress, we have no confidence in your leadership of this once esteemed institution. Quote, the ongoing situation that has unfolded is a direct symptom of your continued lax enforcement of policy and clear double standards. While the rot is systemic, the responsibility rests squarely on your shoulders. It is time for Columbia University to turn the page on this shameful chapter. This can only be done through the restoration of order and your prompt resignation. You know who really is turning out to be a really good guy, and it's shocking, is Senator John Fetterman. He's always on the right side of these types of issues. He called all of them out. I wish I could remember. He had an analogy, and it was really, really good. When we come back, I want to talk a little. I don't want to take too much time on this, but it's important. We should spend quality time on this. This is a very troubling and a very bad situation. And billionaire Robert Kraft, he's not the only billionaire. I'll tell you about another billionaire who has had it with this anti-Semitism. I'm telling you, I really believe the Democrats trying to make sure that they can win Michigan and win Minnesota, this pro-Hamas, anti-Jew Democrat Party of today. This, I know they're trying to thread the needle here. Hey, we're not really against you. We're just going to say these terrible things about Jews, and we're going to support Hamas, but we want you to still vote for us. I mean, this deal that they're trying to, this gambit that they're trying to score is unbelievable. 17 minutes past the hour. We'll be back in just a little bit on the Hurley in the Morning program.
Mark Levin.
So if you're voting Democrat, you're voting for open borders. You're voting for friendly. You're voting for a party that will imprison, if it can, its political opponents. You're voting for a party that supports Hamas, supports the United Nations against the United States and Israel. You're voting for a party that appeases communist China. You're voting for a party that embraces communist Cuba and communist Venezuela.
Mark Levin on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Fox News commentary.
Ivy League university administrators stand down as pro-Hamas and pro-terrorist mobs intimidate Jewish students. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995-GOLD.
Ivy League universities are supposed to foster and educate the nation's best and brightest minds, but that tradition is in the toilet. Rather, these elite universities, such as but not limited to Yale and Columbia, have instead become festering hotbeds for anti-Semitism and anti-American campus thugs. You know, I'm all for free speech, but what these anti-Israel and pro-terror campus mobs are doing and advocating for is well outside of protected speech. Yet campus administrators do nothing. When rabbis resort to advising Jewish students to stay home or indoors for fear they will be targeted and attacked, well, that's when you know things have gotten beyond the scope of the First Amendment. Let me also say this. If your brat kid is out there protesting for Islamic terrorism, you failed as a parent. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
Hurley in the Morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
It's a source I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's 23 minutes past the hour. Robert Kraft has come out. He's had enough. He's ending his support for Columbia University. And you have to wonder, I mean, we talk about cognitive dissonance all the time, and that's when someone willingly goes against their own self-interest. And we see this on many occasions. Democrat media outlets that have gone down the tubes because they refuse. Their ideology is more important than actually doing the right thing and actually finding a way to make it in the free market. So they just go down the tubes and they don't care because they can't help themselves. It's like these crazies that hate Trump more than they love their country. That almost isn't even a applicable comment anymore because they don't love the country. For some reason, they love everything they can suck out of it, but they hate it at the same time. It's remarkable. New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft said he will no longer donate to Columbia University. Can you imagine? I don't know why I can't find it. Somewhere in my H phone I have it. Let me see if I can find it. I got a lot to say about Kraft, but there's another billionaire that has been so incredibly spot on. Let me see if I can find his comment. Yeah, it's going to be tricky. I have just so many things. I have 76,212 photos, 973 videos, and I haven't even used half of the space. You think about these iPhones and the Android phones. This iPhone has so much more capability than all the computers that sent men to the moon. It's just remarkable. I wish I could find this guy's comments. They were so good. Let's see. Did I find it? Yes, I did. God is great. This is like a needle in a haystack. I got it. Bill Ackman is his name. And he was one of the first to come out. He said, how would Columbia respond if the students took over campus in support of the KKK and called for the genocide of other ethnic minorities? Would Columbia continue to support the demonstrations on the basis of a commitment to free speech? Or would the university's code of conduct suddenly have operative impact? So good. Such a great comment. Spot on. He stopped contributing to these anti-Semitic garbage heaps. Quote, I am deeply saddened at the virulent hate that continues to grow on campus and throughout our country. This is Robert Kraft. He attended Columbia on a scholarship. Quote, I am no longer confident that Columbia can protect its student and staff, and I'm not comfortable supporting the university until collective action is taken. Kraft said he wants to see leadership at Columbia end the protests immediately. You know, you've seen it, right? All these tents. This is not free speech. So students have vowed to occupy the lawn at Columbia's Morningside Heights campus until the school divests from companies with ties to Israel. What are they talking about? Do you ever wonder how this happened in America? Death to Israel, death to America, all this stuff right here in our country. They're chanting things to Hamas. You make us proud. Kill another soldier now. Israel will fall. Palestine is Arab. I mean, they got a million of them. A million chants. Waving Palestinian flags and then chanting the words of Hamas's military wing to kill Israeli soldiers. President Shafiq, you got to go. You're garbage. You're human garbage. This whole situation, and it's not just Columbia. I mentioned hundreds of protesters at Yale. You remember in the past what was happening at Cornell and elsewhere. It is terrible. You've got Congresswoman Omar's daughter. She's barred from almost all college activities at the moment. And don't worry, though. Ilhan Omar is so proud of her daughter. I think AOC, too. Just so proud. I mean, in our country, we have openly anti-Semitic elected members of the United States Congress. Isn't this remarkable? Stunning? Disgusting, disgraceful. All right, that's enough of that. We'll be back in just a little bit. A Democrat advisor has said that, and he said this openly, has said that Biden only has, and this is what I've been trying to tell you, don't listen to these unlikely voter national polls of Democrat pollsters that keep saying, oh, Trump leads, but Biden's close. Let me share with you, because I've been telling you all along, don't worry about the national popular vote. Celebrate it. If Trump is leading that, then it's really, really, really over for Biden. But I'm going to give it to you straight from a Democrat when we come back about how narrow Biden's path is to win re-election. We'll be back on the Hurley in the Morning program.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
And this is Harry Hurley at 31 minutes past the hour with 3 stories that you can follow on our WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The criminally charged Atlantic City Superintendent of Schools, LaQuetta Small, believe it or not, and please believe it, is not on the Board of Education meeting agenda for tonight. Are these just dirtballs or what? Atlantic City schools are not following New Jersey child abuse laws. No surprise there. And the Ocean Club condominiums, the balconies, back in the news.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. We've got another beautiful April day on deck with sunny skies and a fresh breeze. It is chilly this morning, but look for a high of 63 this afternoon. Clouds will start to fill in tonight, low of 49. We're going to see a quick round of showers tomorrow morning, then becoming partly sunny and a bit windy. Tomorrow's high 68, scaling back to 56 on Thursday. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today. This is an important safety.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the Morning.
It's a woke society, and I am fed up with it.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. So I teased right before the break that a Democrat advisor has come forward to say that Joe Biden's path to win 270 electoral votes, which you need to become president, is a very narrow one. This is a commentary for the New York Times. I can't even believe they allowed it to be printed, because what the New York Times has been doing lately, it's just horrific. Quote, my analysis of voter history and polling shows a map that currently favors Mr. Trump, even though recent developments in Arizona improve Mr. Biden's chances. Get it? The Democrats always need some wedge dividing type of deal. And thank you, Arizona, because this is fantastic. Your 1864, and that's year 1864. We're talking Abraham Lincoln was president. Your 1864 abortion ban is just perfect right now. Way to go. I'll tell you what. I think in some cases, Republicans have just been so stupid over the past couple of years. Sosnick noted that, quote, 7 states with close results determined who won both the 2020 and 2016 presidential elections. And those 7 states will most likely play the same battleground role this fall. 3 industrial states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. 4 Sunbelt states, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and North Carolina. According to Sosnick, if Biden and Trump remain ahead in the states where they are running the strongest, and they will, quote, the outcome of the election could come down to who wins Michigan and the 2 Sunbelt states where abortion will very likely be on the ballot, Arizona and Nevada. See, this is why you have to understand. Polling only goes so far. Polling cannot measure intensity. Polling cannot measure if there is some kind of outlier issue, some wedge issue. And Democrats, you got to give them credit because they've done such a bad job governing, but they always seem to know what to do in order to improve their position, either by changing the way we vote, changing how long you can vote, changing what a vote is, who can vote. And that's really what they're doing. And putting something like abortion on the ballot so that people will vote for that and then hold their nose. Oh, yeah, I'll vote for all these people too, even though they're terrible. They're my terrible, so I'll vote for my terrible. Sosnick sounded an alarm for Democrats in Minnesota. Quote, while it is mathematically possible for Biden to win, of course, it's Mr. Biden, for Mr. Biden to win, it's Trump, but Mr. Biden, to win without carrying Minnesota, it is unlikely that he will be elected if he cannot carry this traditionally Democratic state. It's so interesting because I said this yesterday, that if you see Trump win Minnesota, then you just go to sleep. You don't have to worry. The rest is going to take care of itself. Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia. There should be no way that Biden wins any of them. In a nightmare, he might win them all. But he shouldn't. And I don't expect that he will. I would almost guarantee you Trump will win 2 out of the 3. And that there's a very good chance that Trump can win 3 out of the 3. When we come back, I want to share with you some thoughts about the New York City trial. What I'm going to try to do is cover it a little bit. Can't ignore it because it's outrageous what they're getting away with. And boy, I'm telling you, so bad. I'm telling you, I hope we never get to test it. But they want to be able to say that Biden can't debate Trump. He's a convicted felon. The media right now, the Democrat Biden media, is already floating trial balloons for why Biden cannot debate Trump. And of course, Trump is to blame. Get it? That's the game. That's the sick game that they're playing on the American people. 41 minutes past the hour on the Hurley in the Morning program.
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
Ocean City, Cape May, and Garber Township, Goshen.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5, South Jersey's talk station. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning.
It's a refreshing drive to work in the morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. 45 minutes past the hour. Before we move on to the New York City trial, I want to make sure, perhaps I did not make myself clear in the last segment, because a friend of mine wrote me, that's why Trump should show up at that debate, staying by himself and answer questions. It would be awesome. And have an empty pulpit to the left of him. And I wrote back, I think you're missing the point. There won't be any debate. There'll be no debate for him to show up for. There'll be no one there to ask questions, as there will be no debate. And he'll be blamed for the fact that there are no debates. That's the point I'm trying to make. Remember, these debates, it's a very, I think, corrupt organization, in my opinion. And for the moment, barely, we're still allowed to have an opinion in this country. It's really close to that's all going to be gone too if we don't win on November 5th. Remember, they keep blaming Trump that he does all these things. Like Hillary, Trump he loves Putin. He wants to throw his opponents in jail. No, that's what you're doing, your side. Everything they say is a lie. But the Presidential Commission on Debates, that is just an awful entity. If Biden says he's not going to debate, They're not going to schedule any debates. Then if Trump said, hey, I'm going to schedule a debate, the Democrat media will make a joke of that. And the empty chair thing, has no teeth. Only if, say, Biden wanted to debate and Trump didn't. Then, oh my gosh, the coverage would be just suffocating. Look, I've told you and told you and told you for years, decades, multiple decades. This is the game. The rules suck. Everything about it is against us. And it's the way it is. See, now he's eating the fool's gold. No, sir, I did not miss that point. Trump could set up his own debate. No, you can't. You can't set up your own debate. The only thing you can do is get as much mileage as you can during the campaign that your opponent is so feeble, so incoherent, so unsuccessful that he cannot debate me, and he wants to blame me for why he can't debate me. Just trust me. I'm telling you, I know what I'm talking about. Then if you say, hey, I'm going to have my own debate, you get nothing. Your own supporters will like it. You get nothing from it. It won't be covered. Look, they used to cover Trump rallies all the time. Now only Newsmax does. They're not covered anymore. Trump's channel and, on social media and Newsmax. The media, the Democrat media, made a decision that although they know that the ratings would be higher than anything that they will put on, that they will not. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't watch any of these other channels, but I follow their activities. You have these people making comments like on MSNBC, which is an unwatchable. Not even a channel, it's a joke. The Democrat, how they're getting away with that not being in-kind contributions to Biden is just shocking. But they actually say, we're not going to cover Trump. We're not going to cover him. They decide he lies, and they're not going to cover him. Or we'll go to it briefly, but if he starts to lie, we're going to pull away. They say this. I'm not making it up. Now, meanwhile, Biden lies all the time, and they cover it like it's the truth. New York City trial, the defense had an opportunity to tell the jury that President Trump is innocent. Hey, I wonder if there's some kind of rule that Mershon did where he cannot be called President Trump. He's called a justice. Can you believe that? Justice Juan Mershon. Do you know he ruled that if President Trump testifies that the other counsel will be able to ask him about E. Jean Carroll and other cases? When in the world has, other than Trump, when has that ever been allowed? I told you an example, if you were listening yesterday, of a local case. It involved a sexual predator who had been previously convicted of sexually assaulting young boys. However, in the case that was before the court in Mays Landing, none of that was allowed to be brought up. And by the way, as unpleasant as that is for me to say, the judge was absolutely correct. That's our country. That's our rules. That's our laws. It would be considered prejudicial. Judge Donio made the ruling that couldn't be brought up. Now, that outrages some people. Oh, my God, if the jury only knew that he did it before. But the whole point is because you did something before doesn't mean that you did it in this example. You have to prove in this example that the person did it. So you understand, he was convicted, by the way, thank goodness. Evidence was there, and they didn't need. But imagine being a juror on that case and you never knew. But that's the whole point. You're not supposed to know. You're supposed to weigh the evidence of that particular trial, that case. But imagine a child sexual predator was given more consideration in Mays Landing, New Jersey, in the court of the Honorable then assignment judge, chief judge, great judge, Michael Donio. Wish he was still in there. He got more, that child sexual predator got more consideration than President Donald Trump gets. Imagine that. That's the sick country that we live in right now, where this system is completely weaponized, lawfare, every trick in the book. These rulings that this Merchan has made already, disgusting, disgraceful. And now today, beginning at 9:30, they're going to do this until no later than 11 o'clock. Then they're going to go back to David Pecker, which why he's even there, it has nothing even to do with this case. But he's allowed it. Merchan has allowed another issue to be brought in to this case. Oh, we want to show that there's a pattern. You're talking about a pattern. It has nothing to do with this case. And this case is garbage to begin with. That's why they have such a bad case. They got liar Michael Cohen. I mean, what a beaut. But the monsters are coming after Trump. This morning, they say, Fat Bragg says that Trump has violated the gag order like 10 times. But don't worry, though. Michael Cohen is allowed to do interviews and trash Trump, and Stormy Daniels and anybody else. Only Trump. So they're allowed to talk about him, but he's not allowed to talk about them. This Merchan, if Trump is exonerated, there won't need to be an appeal. But I was going to say, regardless of what happens, if Trump is convicted, and let's face it, they're stacking the deck. I don't know how 2 attorneys are on this jury. I know that in the modern era, there is a desire to have judges and attorneys and such on juries. I don't know if that plays to Trump's favor or if it's a disaster for him. Because keep in mind, if they're rabid Trump haters, then they can be devastating on the jury. If they're fair-minded officers of the court, they could say, look, this is a really bad case and it really shouldn't even have been brought, but we're here and we have to decide it, but they didn't prove anything and there's no crime that's been committed. I mean, they can be incredibly helpful. Or they can be assassins on that jury. But I've studied to the extent that I can some of the background, and it's like, oh my God, whew. Did even one person that doesn't hate Trump get on this jury? You just don't know. And in New York, they only have 10 preemptory challenges, so that was it. They had 10 challenges, and then they were at the mercy of Merchan. There was a juror, actually, that was so anti-Trump, and the judges say, I'm just not convinced that you can't be fair. And the person's saying that she can't be fair. And then finally, the the defense came up with, hey, we went to her social media and she says that Trump should be in jail. Well, that is just enough. And then reluctantly, Merchan excused that juror or potential juror. Think about that. What I just told you is true. This person was so incredibly adverse to Trump and almost got on the jury. Had the defense not pointed out, excuse me, Your Honor, on her social media, she says that President Trump should be in jail. How do you think that would go? Having that somebody who's already decided you've never committed a crime, you never were charged with anything in your life, but someone's already concluded you should be in jail. How do you think that was going to go with that juror? I don't think very well. And I mentioned to you that Judge Merchan said that Trump can be asked about E. Jean Carroll and fraud and this and that and the other. Just terrible. Here's a number I'm going to share with you. I don't believe it because it comes from Rasmussen, which is a terribly Democratic poll. It's just awful, and I've told you that for many, many years. I think it's one of the worst polls in the history of America. Only 4 in 10 U.S. voters say that President Trump is likely to get a fair trial in New York City. How do you like that? And it's a majority, obviously, and 31% of that majority say that a fair trial is not likely, not at all likely. 42% say that it is likely Trump will be able to get a fair trial. That includes only 27% who say that it's very likely that Trump will get a fair trial. Among people who voted for Trump in 2020, only 15% say it's likely that the former president will get a fair trial. Biden voters, though, say the opposite. 73%. This is how sick you are. I don't know how many Biden voters are listening right now, but you're sick. That you would even vote for this guy makes you should be put in a mental institution. But 73% of Biden voters say that Trump will get a fair trial. Now, that's a level of disease that really speaks for itself. It really does. 54% said that the New York case is a witch hunt, Rasmussen found. Only 40% say the trial is not part of a witch hunt. So, and remember, that's what Democrats humping these poll results at every turn. Kirk Conover joins the program next. It's the Hurley in the Morning program. Back in just a few. Thanks for being with us.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Why, thank you very much. And it's 5 minutes past the hour. Woo-hoo! You give me 2 extra minutes, I'm not going to complain. Welcome to the program. If you missed the last hour, well, I'll just say it was fantastic and ask you to check up on that. Validate what I just said by checking out the podcast later today when it's uploaded. You can download it, and we hope that you have the app on your smartphones. WPG Talk Radio 95.5, because you have the podcast button there. You have obviously the access to the entire digital platform of WPG Talk Radio 95.5, and there is a tremendous amount of digital content, articles about the important issues at the local, the county, the state, and the national level, including everything that's happening right now in Atlantic City, the absolute insanity. I talked to a former casino president yesterday about Atlantic City, and he agreed with me that he's just never seen anything like it. We probably had it was a really good conversation, about a 15-minute or so conversation, and he could be listening to the program right now, and I enjoyed our conversation very, very much, as I know I'm going to enjoy this hour as we welcome the former Assemblyman Kirk Conover to the program. Good morning, Kirk.
Morning, Harry.
Hey.
Always a pleasure.
Good to have you. On the issue of the anti-Semites, the college protesters, the hate Jew crowd, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's very disturbing, and it's part of the whole indoctrination that these kids have been getting at the universities. It's this anti-Semitism has been bubbling on these campuses for a long time, and it's just a shame that the colleges that they're openly having these huge protests, cost like $90,000 a year to go to. For the kids to be radicalized by their left-wing anti-Semite professors, I mean, it is such a disturbing trend. And I'm wondering how many are actually students at these schools.
Now, that's a good point. I think a lot of them are, but that's a very good point. We know that some of them are because some have been arrested. Some are prominent children of members of Congress and things like that. But that's a good point, though. I'm sure there are, as usual, the professional rent-a-mob, type deals that they pay and they go to these different things during the Summer of Love and all that stuff. Kirk, I know the answer. The answer is Michigan, Minnesota in particular. But why in the world would a sitting president of the United States, of either party, this happens to be a Democrat, why would they go with this pro-Hamas crowd like this?
Well, that's a good question, but I think it's because they are Biden is walking a tightrope. He doesn't want to lose the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, the so-called progressive wing. They're actually regressive, taking us back into the Middle Ages with their thinking and their policies. But he doesn't want to lose them. But, and what he doesn't realize is he's losing an awful lot of common sense Democrat voters that may have voted for him if all this wasn't happening.
Did you ever envision that you would see a Senator John Fetterman on several issues in the past several months on the right side, so strongly on the right side, going completely against Biden and his party? I've been very pleasantly surprised at Fetterman.
Yeah, on support of Israel and being against the anti-Semites, he's been strong. He still, votes lockstep with wacko left wing in the Senate on most issues, but he's come out and said, "I'm not a progressive," and he's against the Japanese company buying U.S. steel, thereby standing up for American workers.
By the way, you said Japanese, you meant Chinese, right?
No, it's Nippon Steel is buying U.S. steel.
Okay. Take it back.
Yeah, and supposedly it's going to, reduce the number of, they're going to reduce the number of workers at the U.S. plants, and he's been strong on that. But, everything else in the Senate, he's, like you've pointed out so many times, the Democrats are all in lockstep. They hardly ever surprise, whereas, the Republicans are all over the place. So that's, but yeah, I've also noticed that he's like completely recovered in his speaking ability. And,
he has improved. I'll tell you, he's very, very fortunate because there were concerns that because he ran for office that he wasn't doing what you need to do. I don't know a lot about this, but I know enough to say that the early days and weeks and months after the traumatic event like he had, that's when you have the opportunity to regain as much function as you're going to regain. And if you don't do the work, the exercises, plural, and things that you have to do, then you get stuck and you won't at a point in time be able to recover more. He obviously did the work, because I'm really pleased that you brought that up, Kirk, because I've been meaning to share that with our audience. He is dramatically improved from where he was as a candidate and when he first went into the Senate.
And he's also been, open about, the mental health aspect of his recovery. You can see how it would be very easy to get depressed.
Yep.
After, having a stroke and the slow pace of recovery, you could see how it would be discouraging and depressive.
Yeah.
So, on that front, I'm pleased that he seems to be now fully functional, and he has taken some good stands on issues that are important, such as supporting Israel. And I don't get why people would be against supporting Israel. Israel was created on purpose by the UN as a homeland for the Jewish people, because wherever they were in the world at that time, after World War II, they were oppressed. Do we forget the Holocaust? Do we forget the fact that Russia to this day oppresses Jewish people? It's just horrible that there's this group in America that will not support Israel and say that they're the ones committing genocide. I mean,
Kirk, what is with this anti-Semitism in our country? What's the deal?
I don't know, but historically, the Jewish people for, in the entire recorded history of the world have been enslaved, oppressed, killed. They've been the ones that, whoever wants to make a scapegoat, they've been the ones that have been the target. So all I can think of is this is just an extension of the history of the world.
Should we be surprised that sort of the nerve center of this whole anti-Semitic movement is in the colleges?
No, and we also shouldn't be surprised that what's behind it is the Soros group of not his Open Society Foundation directly, but they contribute to all these different groups that are supporting all these protests. They're greasing the wheels so that these protests can happen. And that's kind of surprising. He's a refugee from, communist Hungary, and he's Jewish, and yet, his group supports all this stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hold on, Kirk. Don't go away, please. It's 15 minutes past the hour. Kirk Conover on the Early in the Morning program. When we come back, I have a county issue for Kirk that I think he's going to enjoy discussing. It's very, very well deserved what's happening and what I want to talk to Kirk about and get his take, because he's very well versed on the individual and the circumstances. And then after the bottom of the hour break, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Trump trial, New York City, and get Kirk's take on his observation from the voir dire jury selection to the early day, if you will, not even because the juror had like a toothache or something. I think it was even an alternate juror. But they got to be there, too, because if they become a juror, they have to have been there for the whole thing. So not even a full day yesterday. I'm still at a loss for why this David Pecker and this other woman. And I mean, I just don't know how they're getting away with all this. But then again, they're getting away with all of it because it's rigged. Judge Merchan, his rulings, and so on. So a lot to talk about there. We'll get to that in about 15 minutes. Back with Kirk right after this.
Early in the morning.
They stick to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Waking up on the right side. This is the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
You have a president that wants these people to vote for him, and hence the president, out of fear, has had to make a choice. This, you talk about a moment of choosing. This has been Joe Biden's moment of truth. And Joe Biden, when the votes were counted and they came in Michigan in the Democratic presidential primary, and over 100,000 Michigan Democratic primary voters voted uncommitted, that was 18.9% of the vote tallied. And basically sending a message to Joe that they don't like any support for Israel. Well, ever since then, Joe Biden has offered at best nothing but tepid support for Israel.
From coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, it's the Sean Hannity Show.
Hey, everybody, your friend Sean Hannity here with a message that is all about your safety. Now, when it comes to protecting yourself, your loved ones, it's not about having a firearm. It's about understanding the continuum of force philosophy. Now, picture this. A situation arises where you or a loved one are threatened. Now, instinct may drive you to reach for a lethal means immediately. Now, what if there was a way to effectively defend yourself, de-escalate a situation without the irreversible consequences of deadly force? Enter Byrna, B-Y-R-N-A. It is the less lethal pistol launcher equipped with tear gas and kinetic ammo to incapacitate attackers for up to 40 minutes. Byrna is legal in all 50 states. No background check is required and can be shipped right to your door. Now, Byrna is proudly American, manufactured in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Just go to Byrna.com/Hannity. Right now, you'll get 10% off. That's BYRNA.com/Hannity. Hannity.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
Established, reputable.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour. Kirk Honifer, our guest, Tuesday mornings, as you know, 7 o'clock hour. And we talk about all kinds of things like this. Next item. I wrote about it, Kirk. Maybe you saw it. I hope you did. And I'm in total agreement with it. I think it's a great honor. And it's a great idea that Denny Levinson had to name Atlantic County Veterans Cemetery the Dick Squires Veteran Cemetery. Nobody did more to make it happen, and such an accomplished, great man. What a perfect honor. Your thoughts, Kirk?
It is a great honor, and Dennis doing the right thing. It's a great honor for Mr. Squires and his family. It's one of his finest accomplishments. Now you have to understand something about Dick Squires. He was old school, but he was nuts and bolts. He was always trying to figure out the best way to make Atlantic County a better place to live. And that
let me say it in English, while spending the least amount of taxpayer money to accomplish what you just said.
There's some question there. He was...
Denny's done a great job, but Dick started the whole thing. I mean, there's only been 3, and Chuck Worthington was only 4 years, and that was that. Dick Squires set the model, built the model, positioned Atlantic County for greatness. I'm going to stop talking because you were there, you were on the board, you were chairman of the board, and you directly worked with. And he was also a member of the board and a chairman of the board, so he knew the perspective from both the legislative branch and the executive branch. Kirk, back to you.
Yeah, he was elected freeholder, and it was probably 3 years later he was named chairman of the board. So he went up the ladder pretty quickly, considering, any freeholder board. There was 9 freeholders, but his leadership abilities were very obvious. He commanded the room whenever he entered.
Yep.
And like I said, he was old school. He'd ride around looking for things that needed to be repaired, potholes in the roads.
Yep. Kirk, there were so many times. He's similar to like a Don Guardian, and he came first. So I'll say Don Guardian was similar to Dick Squires. I can't even tell you how many times I spoke with Dick Squires, even before 6 o'clock in the morning when we signed on. Dick actually left one term early, in my opinion. I'm not going to tell the story today, but I've been talking about maybe telling the story one day. An unscrupulous person kind of tricked him. He was really going to serve one more term, and I'm pretty confident about that statement. You know what I would have loved to have also had the opportunity to see, Kirk, would have been you as Atlantic County executive. You really were next in line, and I don't want to, bring you in anything here this morning on that, but that is a path that I believe you would have been very successful as county executive. Do you ever wish that happened?
Well, I've thought about that, and I always came back to one thing. I was more legislative oriented rather than working in a full-time government position. I always had my roots in the private sector, owning or running a business, and that would not been possible and be county executive. So it was something that, in my mind, I've taken that off the table.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you've been very successful with Nancy in business, and you had your own business prior to that, very successful. And the path you decided to take as chairman of the Freeholder Board, then as an assemblyman, a member of the New Jersey legislature, was also a very good path.
Yeah, and it allowed me to, stay in the private sector and be a productive member of the business community. So you do think about these things as time goes on and you look back. But I was always more comfortable in a legislative policymaking position rather than a time nuts and bolts government position.
I remember at the time what happened was Denny struck very fast. He's aggressive, and he came in there really fast and pretty much cleared the field. But I think had there been a push, and there could have been, if there had been a push for you, would you have taken it?
I probably would have. Like I said, looking back on it, I don't think it would have been the right thing for me to do.
Right.
But I probably would have taken a shot at it. Yeah.
Yeah, you would have done very well, and I could actually. I don't know that you would still be doing it because that would have been, probably for you something that you would not have made a career out of for, say 5 or 6 or whatever, however many terms it's been since Dick. But I was very, very pleased. It was a happy article to write. I thought that Danny said a lot of good things within it. I appreciated. I didn't get to meet him ever, but I appreciated the quote from Dick's oldest son, who commented about how much that would mean to his father, and that he had remembered when he was a child, with his dad. And really, when you think about, for example, Boardwalk Hall being named after Jim Whalen is an abomination. And I've made a really strict point. I don't speak ill of the dead. I've been as kind as I can be to someone that's done as much damage as he did to Atlantic City and to this area, and that was named just purely because of politics. The man that got the money to redo Boardwalk Hall was Bill Gormley. Boardwalk Hall should be named after Bill Gormley, and if not Boardwalk Hall, certainly the Atlantic City Convention Center should be named after Bill Gormley. So you have an example there where that's just horrific. And I will never, and I do not ever refer to that as anything other than either historic Boardwalk Hall or Atlantic City Boardwalk Hall. I will not. That is just it's terrible that they did that. But there are times where it's utterly perfect that you have the absolute right person who literally made something happen that absolutely positively deserved that honor. I don't know how quickly that came to Denny, if it was Denny's idea or somebody said, hey, Denny, I think a great idea would be, my God, I mean, the Atlantic County Veterans Veterans Cemetery after Dick Squires. I mean, it's absolutely perfect, Kirk.
Yes, it is, and it's a beautiful place to be. Every Memorial Day weekend, the Friday that opens up Memorial Day weekend, there's a ceremony out there, and having attended most of them, it's just a peaceful place that's a perfect location and resting place for our deserved military veterans, and perfect situation. And getting back to Dick Squires being old school, I just tell a little anecdote here. I was living in Leeds Point, and I think I had pitched earlier in the day in the county league, and I was sitting on my couch in my living room. Screen door was, the door was open, just had the screen door on, and I'm relaxing, probably watching the Phillies. And in the driveway pulls Mr. Squires, and he just knocked on the door, came in and said, I was in the neighborhood. I'm calling on another lady that lives up the street. She has an issue for the county. Now, this is Sunday afternoon. And it was like, that was Dick Squires to a T.
Great story.
Always on the job, and just so old school, personable. And over the last few years, he's made a point of stopping in the office to see me when, he was still very mobile, sending me emails, the famous email address of Trolley Car.
Did he still give you the crushing handshake too?
Oh yeah, that was had to be.
That was his trademark,
man. Oh yeah, yeah, and he'd get you high so that you couldn't squeeze him back.
There you go. Actually, you say high, but it's actually low. That's his trick, and he got away with it one time. I told him, you'll never get away with that again, and he tried one other time, and I went, no, you don't. And I went bared in, and he had a crushing handshake. That was his thing. Kirk, don't go away. We're going to be right back. 31 minutes past the hour. I think it's fair to say Dick Squires was a cut above. Clearly, man's man. No, just serious man. Created the mold. And honestly, and I think Denny has said this, Denny really just didn't have to mess up. It's like if you take over for the New York Yankees, you can't mess it up. That your job is to not mess it up, to not be Joe Biden. So Dick Squires is the finest county executive in Atlantic County history. I give Denny credit for he inherited a great operation and a great team, and he built upon that. And another credit to Denny would be he also brought in additional talent that kept it going, because a lot of the people that were there when Dick was there, Helen Walsh and different people like that, nothing slipped when the Squires team ultimately retired. That's also to Denny's credit. But Dick Squires is the standard. He's the measure. And he is the finest executive in Atlantic County history. And this is an extremely well-deserved honor. We're going to be right back with Kirk Conover right after this.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
It is, and it's 32 minutes past the hour. Harry Hurley with Kirk Conover. I have 3 stories that you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The criminally charged Atlantic City Superintendent of Public Schools, believe it or not, and you better believe it, is not on the board agenda for tonight. Doesn't mean they can't talk about her. They will. They have to. Even they have to. The Atlantic City schools are not following New Jersey child abuse laws. That's a problem. And the Ocean Club condominiums back in the news.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. What a nice day to sit outside, soak up some sunshine, and enjoy the fresh spring air. You'll want a jacket this morning with temperatures in the 30s and 40s. We're topping out around 63 today, sunny skies and a fresh breeze. Increasing clouds tonight, low 49. Watch for a quick round of rain showers tomorrow morning. Then becoming partly sunny and a bit windy tomorrow, high of 68. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio Hurley in the morning.
Harry Hurley is the only person that can make sense of what's happening in Atlantic City.
On WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
That gentlelady's got it just about right. Thank you. Kirk, let's go to the national scene. Dateline, New York City. This farce of a trial. Judge Merchan and his brag Rockettes against President Trump. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it's impossible for him to get a fair trial in New York City. They should have allowed a change of venue. And even then, I mean, if you're president of the United States, how many people don't have an opinion of you at some at some level? So it is a farce. These charges were, I guess you would call them misdemeanors, and the statute of limitations had run out. The Justice Department, the Federal Election Commission all said nothing. There's nothing there, and yet this. Alvin Bragg, he somehow elevated them to felonies, which most legal commentators, unless on the delusional planet of MSNBC, say that this is unprecedented and unconstitutional and everything should be thrown out. So the whole idea here is this coordinated effort, and it is coordinated. The lead prosecutor was left a high-ranking job in Merrick Garland's Justice Department to take a job with the Manhattan DA office to prosecute this. Forget about it. That's coordination from the top. These are Biden.
Imagine, I want people to understand what you just said, Kirk, and we really have been, I think, doing a good job as a program also pointing these things out. The third highest ranking person of the Biden Justice Department made the opening statement in this case against Trump. This is not, they're not even pretending to hide the genesis of this thing. This is what, and that's why what Hillary said the other day, oh, Trump, he loves Putin. He wants to, jail his opponents and all this stuff. That's exactly what they're trying to do, Kirk.
Yeah, they're trying to imprison him in the courtroom so he can't campaign, trying to drain his resources so he doesn't have the money to run a proper campaign. It's all backfiring, though. I mean, the people see this, as the Banana Republic strategy that it is. And, Biden's so out of it that he can take along and act like he has nothing to do with it when it's all coordinated through the White House.
But in a speech he gave, because he does ad-lib once in a while, he mentioned how Trump is busy these days, and they all laughed. I mean, everybody knows the con. This is a con job. This is an absolute Biden hit. They're the dirty ones. They keep trying to make Trump so objectionable, but they're guilty of everything that they say that he's guilty of. And what I'm wondering is this. To an extent, it's already worked. I mean, look, they mess with his money. They take his time. Money he's good at replacing. Time you can't replace. They have him in this courtroom from morning until late afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I heard a little montage of these Democrat maggot advocates, they're not news people, saying how can Trump do this? I mean, you can't just campaign on Wednesday and Saturday. And they're laughing. They know exactly what they're doing here. So we know that even if there's a hung jury or if he's found not guilty, which I find very unlikely that a New York City jury is going to find him not guilty, I could see maybe they got lucky and 1 out of 12 got in there and won't go with the con. And so we might see a hung jury, which I guarantee you Fat Bragg would immediately say we're retrying. He wouldn't even do what they usually do, say we have to review, we have to look at the case, and we have to look at things. I predict he would immediately come out and say we're retrying the case. And then watch, they would try to immediately get it back on a rocket docket so that it would be before the election again, even though we have murderers and heinous violent offenders that aren't being put on trial yet because all the assets are on getting Trump. Do you think they'll get the whole Monty, 3-card Monty, and get the conviction too?
I just my political mind says, yeah, they'll get a conviction, but my real common sense mind, I can't see it. It's just not a case.
I know, but I can see it because it's not a case, and it will be overturned on appeal. Bragg is way out of his league and not even permitted to do what he's doing here. But look at all the things they've done here. They're letting these other people, Pecker and the other woman, and all these things. And if Trump, they're telling him in advance, if you testify, then we're letting E. Jean Carroll and this one. And now, I mean, it's Kirk, it's unbearable what's going on. It's unbelievable. It's a tragedy at so many levels, but they're getting away with it. So we know it's fake, but guess what? It's a trial. And there's a jury, and 2 of them are attorneys. We don't know if they're rabid left lunatics or if they're fair-minded. I mean, how did 2 attorneys get on that? I would have never allowed that. But keep in mind, they only had 10 preemptory challenges. And Mershon, as I told earlier in the program, before you arrived, Kirk, there was a woman who was basically saying she could be a fair juror. And thank God the defense was able to go to her social media and pleaded to the judge that, hey, she has on her social media that Trump should be in jail. And he was going to let her on with all the other stuff that she had written. I mean, this is such, even if you hate Trump, you should hate that this is what our country has become.
Yeah, it certainly is a bad book, and like I said, it moves us into Banana Republic territory. And but it's a coordinated effort to keep him all tied up so he can't campaign properly.
And their goal, though, they want to be, and I do believe it's a shame, and it would be so crooked, and I don't think he would win on appeal in time to change it. They desperately want to be able to say, no, President Biden cannot dignify this. He cannot have a debate with a convicted felon, and he would be campaigning around the country. Come on, there's no choice here. I'm running against a convicted felon, and he's got more convictions coming, but they're not going to be done in time. So, but we know we have a convicted felon. Kirk, they will use the line convicted felon. I mean, it will be thousands and tens and hundreds of thousands of times between now and November 5th.
Yeah, they're also laying the groundwork for saying they're not going to because Trump's a liar. He lies. That's another narrative that they're throwing out there. And I seriously doubt that any of this would be going on if he wasn't a presidential candidate. It's mysterious. They could have brought these charges the moment he left office. And yet,
well, let's be fair about that. The United States government did look at it, and they did not bring charges. And the Federal Election Commission looked at it and did not bring charges. Fat Bragg looked at it and did not bring charges. That's when the other guy, I forget his name, another guy from the Biden Justice Department, when he left and wrote a book in real time because he was so disgusted that Fat Bragg didn't charge Trump. And then Fat Bragg came back or I guess I'll bring a Jen Psaki quote, circled back, and then they did this bootstrapping thing because obviously all the statute of limitations has long expired, so they bootstrapped it to a federal charge. The whole thing is improper.
Absolutely. And all the other charges he faces are improper, too. I mean, he had every right to have the documents he had, and he had declassified them. And then in Atlanta, so, yeah, it's all, like, no mistake about it, it's all coordinated to get him all bungled up, and it's just a bad look. And it's all, so coincidental. He announces he's going to run for president, and all of a sudden these cases come up.
Oh, yeah, there's no coincidence. You know that. 46 minutes past the hour, a very short break. We'll be back in just over 2 minutes, more with Kirk Conover. Chuck Malamud about 20 minutes away, and then wide open forum for the 9 o'clock hour where anything can happen when you're involved. At 609-407-1450. We'll have phone lines open coming up in our fourth and final quarter. Back with Kirk right after this. Don't go away. I am Hurley in the Morning.
The WPG Talk Radio app is everything South Jersey on your phone and in your car through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Local news, weather, and information updated around the clock from New Jersey's largest radio news team. Easy access to WPG podcasts and more. Powered by Smokers Haven. You'll find the finest selection of cigars at any of their 5 locations. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. Visit SmokersHavenNJ.com.
Bonus.
Hurley in the Morning.
Not only the news, but perspective too.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you very much. We continue. It's about 10 minutes before the top of the hour, a few seconds more than that with Kirk Conover. That's a good thing. Kirk, any issues that you would like to cover that you haven't had a chance to share?
Well, I was looking the other day at this first unemployment claim filing. It comes out every Thursday, and I'm amazed by how even the number is. 212,000 even last Thursday. Thursday before it was 211,000 even. Go back several weeks, and it's always in that range. It's between 205,000 and 215,000.
So your point is, it almost looks like they're just plugging and playing numbers, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. You got it. It just looks like.
Hey, look, I've been hanging around a Wharton School graduate for about 32 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, trust the numbers. I don't think so. The other interesting thing is that the Fed's favorite inflation measure, the Personal Consumption Expenditure Index, looks to be going higher. I think that comes out Thursday. And that is, I said back, I guess, in January, that inflation was going to tick back up again, and slowly but surely it's been ticking back up. And that's a historic pattern. You go back to the 70s and look at all the inflation we had back then. There was a period of time when it went down, and everybody's going, okay, we've whipped inflation. That was Gerald Ford, WIP, whipped inflation. Win, I think it was, whipped inflation now. And it did go down. And then it started ticking back up, and then it really became virulent under Jimmy Carter. It all stems back to overspending by the government, which is fiscal stimulus that's not needed. I just read a report over the weekend that there's still $1.6 trillion of unspent federal money under all the different programs, so-called Inflation Reduction Act, the so-called Infrastructure Act, and the American Recovery Act. They all have unspent funds. And again, Fed's going to have to devalue the dollar to finance them, because there's nobody big enough to buy all those Treasury bonds that finances as the spending unfolds. So you've got a lot of pressure on the economy. And, of course, you got the manipulation of the economy. The Democrats, through their so-called climate agenda, they're trying to top down pick winners and losers. They're closing off federal lands to oil exploration, lands that are designated the National Petroleum Reserve, set up in 1920 to supply the U.S. Navy with oil. And they're closing 13 million acres of that. They're trying to mandate the electric vehicles, which are proving to be inefficient, ineffective. I've said before, in 1910, electric vehicles represented 33% of the automobile market, and by 1920, they were gone, because the internal combustion engine is a much more efficient and effective means of transportation. But all this Democrat manipulation of the economy is designed to control you, the individual, can keep you from, the freedom to travel, keep you in your 15-minute city, as they express it at the World Economic Forum. They don't want you to live out in the suburbs, live in the rural areas. They want you to be in a city where everything's within 15 minutes and you don't have to use cars. Come on. This is all socialism, unhinged socialism, and totally unnecessary.
Without a doubt. Great narrative. Kirk, in the 5 minutes that we have a little bit more than 5 minutes. I rarely talk about this on air because it's already a sellout. So it's not like we need to, ask for golfers and things like that. But I want to mention the Hurley in the Morning, the 17th annual Hurley in the Morning Charity Golf Open. Two things I want to say about it. Number one, and Kirk, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this. I meant to send you the article, but I don't think that I did. And that is the news of the passing of my good friend, Joe Pellegrino. I was so saddened. Joe had always kept in touch with me, and I didn't write in the article, what was going on, but I knew that, that Joe was dealing over the past couple of years, actually, with some challenges, but it never stopped him. As recently as last June, he was in our event, played the whole 18 holes. Remarkable. He did that at age 88. And so he passed away recently, as you know. I think you know, Kirk, at age 89. And this I have not said publicly. We are naming our closest to the pin competition after Joe. Joe won it a couple of years ago. So I just think it's the perfect thing for our tournament. We're talking about naming things with what Denny did for Dick and what we're going to do for Joe Pellegrino. So I wanted to mention that to everyone. And also, even before Joe had passed away and I knew we were going to be doing this, I had already made a pledge. And Mike Merlino is the sponsor of both the closest to the pin and the longest drive. We've increased the prize from $100 to $250. That's a nice little prize, Kirk. Don't you agree?
That sure is.
So $250 on that, and it will be the Joe Pellegrino closest to the pin competition. I'm going to have a sign made by Copiers Plus that will have that right at the hole, and maybe do something. It'll certainly have his name very special. Maybe we'll even put his likeness on there or something like that. But definitely, at least a sign will be there with his name on it, and we're doing that. And Kirk, something else that has been 17 years in the making. Now, if you take 150 golfers and you say they each get 3 balls, if I do fast math, I'm not a Wharton School graduate, but if you do fast math, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 7,560 golf balls that Chuck Malamud has donated to the Hurley in the Morning charity over 17 years, and he's never hit one. He's never hit one. That's dozens and dozens and dozens of golf balls. Everybody gets a sleeve every year in their nice little swag bag. Ladies and gentlemen, and Kirk Conover, I'm not giving you a third category, Chuck Malamud is an entrant. He doesn't even know that I know this. Chuck Malamud is an entrant in the 17th annual Hurley in the Morning Charity Golf Open. Kirk, he's playing. Chuck.
That's
Mr. Big.
fantastic.
Mr. Big.
Yeah.
So it'll be Chuck and Frankie and Mike, the Torpy. I don't know who their fourth is going to be. Probably have to, get some killer in there. But I'm very excited to announce, and it's tough. We had to make room. I mean, we're a sold-out event. Had to make room for the Malamut foursome. He's in.
That's fantastic.
I know.
He'll be giving stock market tips.
He'll have plenty of golf balls. He's going to get more than a sleeve, I think.
They're good golf balls too. They're Snell.
Oh my God, are you kidding? These are the best. I mean, we're talking about like some of the finest Titleist golf balls and others that you can find. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a whole stash of his golf balls.
Now, well, of course, you've been playing 17 years, and you hit them straight and not too often. So, it's not like out of 3 that you get every year, times 17 years coming up, it's dozens of golf balls right there, just there. Now, Kirk, you and your foursome, you've been champions of the event, and when you're not the champion foursome, you're always right there in contention.
And we're gonna field a strong team again this year. The band is back together, and it's a nice combination. We got 2 big heavy hitters, and Bob Kraft and Greg Sugden, and then we got the short game maven and Glenn Mulvey, and I'm a pretty good putter. So
you definitely there's a reason why you've been able to win, and when, as I mentioned, you've been tie and lost on a match of cards. You've been won back. I mean, we're talking like a number of years. I would say probably easy 5 or more years you've either won it or been within a stroke or so, or even tie. I also want to say in the final 10 seconds that it's an honor to also have the most honest foursome in our tournament, and that is the beautiful ladies from the Absecon Presbyterian Church, including Nancy Conover.
They love that moniker.
Yeah, earned. All right,
and
Kirk.
They love playing.
Yeah, we can't wait. Well, they're in. You're in. They're in. And we got to go. Have a great day, Kirk.
All right. Thanks, Harry. Always a pleasure to be on the #1 program in New Jersey.
Thank you, sir.
WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's 6 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is about to present and sponsor his weekly program, all about your financial matters. Chuck Malamut is the managing director, leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. You can reach Chuck and Mike Torpy and Frank and Kristen and Lauren, the entire Malamut Group, at 609-383-2010. The following program, as I mentioned, presented and sponsored by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck Malamut, welcome to your program.
Harry, it's really great to see you.
You know, I'm thinking about something. This July 1st will mark an even 32 years that you and I have done your program. I don't think we have ever missed 2 consecutive weeks until this
Harry,
past 2 weeks.
We've not. A couple things happened in your, I'll call your leave.
But by the way, it's not been good since I left.
Well, no. Well, first of all, in the world that I live in, the markets had a really tough time.
I know, because I wasn't here.
And I'm starting to think that maybe because Harry wasn't around, to put that positive mojo on everything.
I think so.
And then I got a couple calls from some clients and listeners last week, and they said, "Did Harry fire you? I don't hear you anymore Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning."
You have a regular following, so when it wasn't you, this was a problem. So I'm happy we've rectified it. But it didn't get lost on me that it was a couple of rough weeks without me.
Yeah, so Harry, it was. I mean, we flipped the script and got into the second quarter, and the world got.
You realize we can now say things that, it was always, there's definitely going to be a number of rate decreases. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Okay, it might be a little later in the year, but it's definitely going to happen. Now Chairman Powell is actually saying there might not be any rate
Well, I'm going to use
decreases.
we'll get into this in a few minutes, but I'm going to I'll just end that with the word hawkish. Okay, so if you look at last week, Harry, the S&P was down over 3%. The largest 1 week loss that we have seen since March of 2023. It was a very strange week. Each day, the 5 trading days, the market, was lower each and every day, and it seemed as if I think almost every one of those 5 days, the market opened higher, could not hold those levels, and then sold off into the close. And it was. And then by the time Friday, we got to Friday, the big V word, volatility, is certainly, back in vogue, and we're going to get into that in a few minutes as well. As far as the S&P is concerned, Harry, we did close below that 5,000 point level last Friday at 49.67. We had a good day yesterday, so we're back over 5,000. The S&P, was up, over 10.5%. For the first quarter of this year, 2024. Again, we're off to a fairly rocky start, with a 5% plus decline so far during the month of April. And Harry, this is very unusual because the market, more times than not, has a positive month during the month of April. Now, we talked about the Fed. We had, April 15th, there were a lot of checks written and people getting their bank accounts deducted for income taxes due. So when you you look at everything, for last week, the S&P down 3%, for the week now up 4.6% year to date. So think about it, they took half of the gain out in just a week.
How did clients do, and I know you don't speak about any one, but just generally speaking in terms, because I know this is something that the Malamut Group really strides in terms of communication and making sure that people understand realized gains and things like that. How did everybody do, relatively speaking? Because last year was a good year. Last year was a good year.
We have over the past several years moved, when we can, away from the mutual fund world into more ETFs and structured products and unit investment trusts, and obviously managed money and fixed income. And the reason we do that, Harry, is we want to be able to control the gains more. Gains and losses. The problem with a mutual fund, the way they're set up and structured, they are required to pay out all capital gains, regardless of performance, each and every year.
Yeah, I think that's so unfair.
Now, eventually it catches up. Let's assume for a minute you make a $50,000 investment in a fund, and you make that same investment in a similar ETF. And now it's 10 years down the road, and let's say that $50,000 is now worth $150, as an example. The amounts are obviously not right, the timing, but in an ETF, what happens is, Harry, you now have and you go to sell that, you now have an unrealized gain of $100,000 that you convert, that you'll pay tax on. In a mutual fund, each and every year, the managers or the management team of that respective fund is required to pay out that gain in the form of capital gain distributions, and that has to happen before year end.
Wow.
So let's assume for a minute a $10,000 gain is paid out year one, and for purposes of simplicity, let's assume every year it's a $10,000 gain. All right, or no, we'll back up. We'll make it to $5,000 gain. So now at the end of the 10th year, you have paid tax on another $50,000, but you haven't actually received those monies, and that's called phantom income.
Yeah.
Now, but the good news is with that, at the end, when you go to sell that position for $150,000, and you now have, let's say, $100,000, cost basis, because you paid that each and every year along the way. So at the end, your capital gain is $50,000 instead of instead of $100,000. And now I'm being, like I said, I'm being very simplistic in trying to describe this, but there's a stark differential between mutual funds and ETFs. And what we're seeing now, a lot of the larger companies, asset managers, a company like a BlackRock, for instance, they announced this the other day, they are starting to convert these mutual funds into ETFs. Because I think when you look at the flow of funds, what's helping mutual funds is the fact that, a lot of 401k money ends up in a mutual fund. Eventually, Harry, I think, I don't want to say they're going to be extinct, but I think eventually there's going to be less and less each and every year that will flow into mutual funds versus an ETF.
Excellent beginning. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. A reminder for all of your financial planning needs, 609-383-2010, 609-383-2010. Chuck Malamut, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley. We'll be back with Chuck Malamut. I am Hurley in the Morning.
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
Brigantine.
Mays Landing. Each state.
Ocean City.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. South Jersey's talk station. Wake up weekday mornings with Hurley in the Morning.
Cut the BS and let's get to the truth.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back. It's 18 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut continues all about your financial matters. Now, Chuck said the word about 15 or so minutes ago, but didn't get to delve into the specifics about it, and that is that volatility has returned to the markets. Chuck, time is yours.
So Harry, the big V word, or the VIX as it's often referred to, has as the markets sell off, the VIX or the volatility increases. So basically, Harry, there's three items that are driving volatility, and you said it with Kirk last hour, and we talked about it just a minute ago. The market has repriced the Fed expectations with respect to rate cuts, and I think
is it now repriced that there will? Okay, I was going to say that there will be none. That there will be one, which that's like, for me, that's projection, because the Fed chair hasn't said there's going to be one.
No, he hasn't, but he's gotten, like I said, he's gotten very hawkish in his discussions. But so let's assume there is one, and they're adjusting for the quote higher for longer end of quote interest rate regime. The geopolitical tensions, and we talked about this on the break, and you've been talking about it all the time. You think about, what's happening, particularly in the Middle East. That could end up putting pressure on oil, additional pressure on oil and commodity prices.
And it already is. If you look at the price of the pump right now, dramatically
but could go,
higher.
But the price of crude could go through 100. I mean, there's some discussions of that. And last but not least, we'll talk about this in a few minutes as far as earnings are concerned. On the surface, what we're seeing, and granted, we've only had, less than 15% of S&P 500 companies report, Harry, it's been a little bit softer. Mega cap technology firms, Microsoft, Google, Meta, they're reporting this week. So it's a big week, as far as earnings are concerned. And again, investors are looking to see if there's any signs of any weaknesses, within those particular companies.
Chuck, are you going to talk more about the Fed chair, or do you want to go to retail sales?
Well, let's just say, and again, I've probably said it now the third time. He sounded very hawkish, stating it's likely to take longer than everyone had previously thought. You think about this, when we got into the beginning of 24, the expectations were, and what drove the markets, remember we hit that October low, is the fact that Powell and his group of these other Fed governors or presidents, they basically became very, very dovish and said, we are expecting up to 6 cuts.
Wow.
So now you've gone to this higher for longer, more hawkish, and Harry, the Fed is still dead set on this 2%.
And this higher for longer is bad news. It's bad news for anybody running right now, or for the incumbent running right now. It's not bad news for the challenger. But it's just bad news on top of bad news because that will keep rates higher. Mortgage rates, as you know, are over 7% again, and I think that happened during my COVID-19 vacation. So this is
vacation.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So this is a whole different. Would you agree? This is a very different atmosphere than was expected.
I think as the run up for November gets closer and closer, I think it makes it very challenging for the incumbent. You can't. There's only so many ways you can spin this. But bottom line is, and Harry, I'm gonna jump ahead here because there was one thing I found very, very interesting, and it's called a political reality, and for the U.S. consumer, the same grocery basket, you go out, eggs, milk, cheese, whatever, 21% more expensive since the start of the Biden administration. Under the Trump administration, Harry, the cost of that same basket of groceries increased less than 7%.
Oh, yeah.
So
terrible.
3 times differential.
Yep.
So that was, as you were saying, people are feeling this.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it, and a lot of the big box retailers and the consumer staple companies, they're announcing it's getting a little soft. People are they're more conscientious as to what's going on versus where they were, just 6 months ago.
So make sense of this then, Chuck. Costs continue to head in the wrong direction. You cited the 21% increase in that shopping excursion. Now we can also say that retail sales are recovering. So what's up?
So this is where
that's a disconnect.
There is a disconnect, Harry. So retail sales in our country grew by 0.7% month over month in the month of March.
But is that only because things are so much more expensive?
That could be the answer because they never ever go back to that. And
right.
And the expectation was 0.3%. So the consumer under the retail sales umbrella seems to be a little bit stronger. But Harry, if you take a look as to what is happening here with respect to the consumer, excess savings, continue to decrease.
Yep.
Lending standards, and you said it just a minute ago, to consumers are becoming a lot more difficult and tight. And the forward-looking indicators of wage growth, such as job openings, hiring, and quit rates, are all in a downtrend. So, we are certainly, all the stars are not aligned here because, you say retail sales are up, but then you look at the consumer, and the consumer looks to be pretty stretched. And a lot of that, Harry, is all about the price of commodities and the price of oil. You think about it, oil prices have been increasing in recent months because of the economy that we're in right now. You look outside the U.S., the global manufacturing cycle has kind of bottomed out, and the production discipline that's out there from OPEC is also, built into the equation. So, and again, as we chatted about it a few minutes ago, oil prices have been increasing in recent months, and you have this premium that we'll title the Middle East War Premium. And should this conflict, Harry, become more intense, don't be at all surprised if we end up at triple-digit oil price.
And then look at this. This was my Saturday expenditure for filling up my car, Chuck.
$74.14.
$74.
$4.40 a gallon.
For the premium. That's devastating. You think about what is the Malamut Doctrine? One of my listeners wrote it to me when I posted this on social media. That what does Chuck say about every penny that a cost of?
Well, there you go.
That's $1.5 billion or something,
right?
Out of the spending that could be taking place. But think about what this does to a person or a family on a fixed income. You're spending nearly $75 for one tank of gas. That's devastating.
It is, Harry. And so, and remember, I remember listening to you, for several years now, consumers unfortunately have to make a choice.
Yep.
Do you put gas in the car? Or do you put food on the table?
Yeah.
And so as a result of all of that, I think that's pretty much where we are at this point in time. So we kind of jumped around a little bit.
Got him.
And I apologize for that. But
we're good.
Why don't we? I guess the question is, and I'm not going to use the R word, but Harry, are we? You're laughing. Are we going to have a soft landing?
We're going to be told things that will be akin to that. But I don't think we are. But I think that's what we're going to be told. There will be no recession acknowledged prior to November 5th. And I think the game is going to be to try to trick people that things are better than they are.
Yeah, so Harry, I tend to agree with you that this soft landing scenario in which inflation returns to the Fed's 2% target without a meaningful rise in unemployment, and we've talked, I don't want to sound like we're beating this drum all the time, but remember when we were at 9% inflation, and we chatted about how easy it was going to get. Not easy, but it was going to be. You
were very, very on point about that and very accurate. You said it'd be one thing to get to 4 or 5, how tough it was going to be to get to 2%.
And it's all about unemployment. And
Chuck, do you agree the unemployment, maybe mention this for a moment and then we'll go to the bottom of the hour break. The employment numbers really seem fantastical to me. I'm not buying it, Chuck. And I know it's a lot of part-time jobs, and there's just a lot of weirdness and variations, gyrations between the first number and then the next month, what they do to revise it.
No, Kirk. Kirk talked about weekly jobless claims.
Yeah.
And and I noticed the same scenario which is happening, Harry. Think about this. Most of the past several weeks have shown that first-time claims for unemployment benefits haven't fluctuated at all, as in zero.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So think about this. A string of weekly reports, Harry, showing exactly 212,000 initial claims. People are starting to question, wait a minute, every week it's 212? and you would expect, the government comes back and says, look, while the string of 212,000 prints on the jobless claims data is, quote, uncommon, it can be attributed to consistent jobs picture reflecting, seasonal adjustments. But, if you really dig into this,
Chuck, we track, and because you know what I do, we track our digital platform not on a daily basis, but really even much more frequent than just once a day. They're updated a couple times a day, but they're tracked all the time. And this is our readers. It's never even numbers, Chuck. It's always an odd number. If you ever see an even number, it's a blue moon type of thing. That was a very astute comment that Kirk and now you're making, that 212,000, 210,000, 206,000. I'm not buying.
It's 212.
Yeah, 212 forever.
212.
All right, 212 forever.
But think about this.
All even numbers all the time.
All right, so you talked about, how you guys get to your numbers. We
get them for real.
But here's
that's why.
But think
that's
about
why
this.
they're odd, not even.
So Harry, for 5 out of the last 6 weeks, the level has remained at 212,000. We have 168 million people working, and you have, I think you have a better chance of hitting the lottery.
Oh yeah.
Than this happening, and you think about this. Initial claims for unemployment, are run by the states. So you got 50 different state rules. You have hundreds of offices. You have 50 websites that file this information. You have weather, seasonality, holidays, economic vibrations. They drive these numbers. So you tell me how we end up with 212,000 every week.
Because the game is rigged. That's how we end up with it. We're going to be right back. Chuck Malamut continues all about your financial matters. 609-383-2010 to reach the Malamut Group. When we come back, Chuck Malamut has first quarter earnings news with Hurley in the Morning next.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
31 minutes past the hour with Chuck Malamut. I am Harry Hurley in the Morning, and I have 3 stories that you can follow on our WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The criminally charged Atlantic City Superintendent of Public Schools is not on the Board of Education meeting agenda for tonight. How does that happen? Atlantic City schools are not following New Jersey child abuse annotated statutes and laws. That's a problem. And the Ocean Club condominium balconies are back in the news. With Chuck, I'm Harry.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. We've got another beautiful April day on deck with sunny skies and a fresh breeze. It is chilly this morning, but look for a high of 63 this afternoon. Clouds will start to fill in tonight, low of 49. We're going to see a quick round of showers tomorrow morning, then becoming partly sunny and a bit windy. Tomorrow's high 68, scaling back to 56 on Thursday. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Listen at home or in the office on your smart speaker. Just say, play WPG. Wake up weekday mornings with Hurley in the Morning.
This is the stuff we need to talk about.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's 35 minutes past the hour with Chuck Malamut, and he's talking all about your financial matters. First quarter earnings news.
So, Harry, as we chatted about just a few minutes ago, earnings are now coming fast and furious. I believe this week alone there's 150 S&P 500 companies reporting, and a lot of the mega cap big tech names. Well, Harry, what we've seen so far with about 15% of those that are reporting, and again, we use blended earnings. And remember, Harry, blended earnings combine what has been reported and what we believe will be reported, shows that earnings are up about 0.2% compared with the same quarter a year ago.
Why don't they just wait and have the earnings? Why would you have like a real blended earnings with a projected one?
Well, yeah, Harry, I don't know.
I like to change that.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about this,
it's not like you have to wait forever.
But think about this: if you were just if you just looked at the 14% of the companies that have reported, and let's say there's some aberrations within there.
I got it.
And the market would take it potentially the right way or the wrong way, and then these other companies come in.
I got it. It's a more representative overall sampling.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think there would be a lot more volatility.
Yeah.
If we just said, okay, today we're 14% reported. Here's where we are. Now we're 20%. I think this is the right way
Is it going
to
to shake out to be a good first quarter, or what would you say?
I don't know. Harry, if you remember fourth quarter, there was a lot of cold water that was thrown on to earnings and early on. And then as we got into the second or third week, it kind of flipped the narrative. And we ended up with a really good quarter. And as a result of that, the S&P was up 10% for the month for the first quarter of 2024. A lot of what we're experiencing right now, Harry, is, again, the market doesn't look in the rearview mirror so much as to what has happened within the company, but they're more looking at the guidance that is being offered by these respective companies as far as, I guess you can use the word soft or softness, and you can't, Harry, you can't go around the block without looking at volatility. I mean, we talked about it on the break, and you and Kirk talked about it. I mean, what is happening now in these colleges, with respect for this hatred, of Jewish
Do you ever think
people.
you'd live to see this, Chuck?
No, Harry, look, and I mean...
We all studied the Holocaust and never forget and everything about that. Even I follow these things so closely because it's my job. Even I thought that I would never see it rise to this level. Although I did always believe that the anti-Semitism was bubbling right at the surface or right below the surface. And if for some reason, and I guess it's on purpose, that it's almost like an indoctrination at the college level. Why all of this in our colleges.
And
it's like it's being taught.
Well, I think you're right. I think it is being taught.
It's terrible.
And you think about the cost of higher education, and this is what we get at the end of the day. So really,
I mean, these are not protests. If you're commandeering a whole lawn of a college, a university, and you're talking about exterminating Jews and things like that, that's not free speech.
No,
that
is not.
That is criminal behavior.
And look, there were a lot. Students were told. I mean, Columbia is now virtual, I think, or hybrid.
Hybrid. So it's a lot. You have the choice of going, but if you don't feel safe, you can do it virtually
for the rest of the semester.
For the rest of the semester, and you have a university president that is not getting the job done.
No, that unfortunately is painfully obvious. And
now look at Yale, hundreds of arrests and protesters and all of this, and it's NYU, and it's all over.
Yeah, the list, unfortunately, Harry.
Remember Cornell?
Yeah, sure. I remember Cornell. Absolutely. I mean, they were one of the first. When I'm going to call this round 2 or round 3, but it just doesn't want to seem to go away.
But you have billionaires, and one of them I remember, obviously, because I'm a big football fan, so I'll remember Robert Kraft. There's another billionaire that's
pulling
come
back.
out.
They're pulling back these contributions out.
And that's what you need to do. You got to make it hurt. You got to make them have to make a decision that this is not acceptable, and you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. You know, I think some of them that have these huge honorariums and this is so big, their endowments and all, that they think that they're whatever, recession-proof, impervious, but start to have billionaires say, I can't write you checks anymore.
Well, Harry, let's go right into what we have on our talking points today. And this happened when you were on your vacation, your COVID vacation.
Yeah.
Did you get 3 square meals a day?
Yes, I ate well.
I didn't get invited for dinner. I figured you definitely would invite me, to spread.
I was protecting you.
So when you were, I'm only teasing you because I love you, right?
Thank you. I feel loved.
The Biden administration again announced that they're going to look to cancel up to $20,000 in unpaid interest for student loan borrowers who owe more than their initial loan amount. So that means they haven't paid anything, right. I guess, right?
Or not enough.
Or not enough.
Yeah.
And individual borrowers who earn $120,000 or less, or married couples who earn about $240,000 or less are going to be eligible to have this interest wiped off from their balance. And as you know, this is, what is this, the third attempt now?
Oh, at least.
And
by the way, it's not even attempts. He's successful at it. I mean, they're never going to be able to take it back.
Right.
Even if it gets determined it was unconstitutional and any other finding that happens, they're not going to go back. This debt has been forgiven.
This is what I understand. It was the first round was invalidated by the U.S. Supreme Court.
The entire concept of doing it was invalidated by the Supreme Court, not just one effort. Now what they're doing is they keep saying they're going to find a way to be able to do it, which really means they're just violating the Supreme Court ruling and doing it anyhow.
You shake your head.
I'm gobsmacked by it.
And you say, why this? We've never seen this before. And if you decided to go to a specific university or college and knew going in what those costs would be, wouldn't you have this conversation with yourself or other family members or advisors and say, I'm a little bit over my skis here, and I'm not going to be able to afford this, or is it just I'll go to college and I'll figure it out later?
It's that, and maybe even that somebody else is going to pay my bill for me, which is what this administration has sort of turned the country into. Like, if you decided that you couldn't go to college or you wanted to go to a trade school and learn a trade and you were going to go that route, why should you be paying for someone's unpaid college loan?
Well, yeah. I mean, who's picking the winners and the losers here?
Joe Biden.
At the end of the day. I mean, you paid all of your college
I'm not getting
bills.
Any reduction on any of my Parent Plus, obligations. And that's the way it should be. But that's not the way it is for the winners that they're picking. So it's a game of winners and losers, and they get to decide who the winners are. But nobody that didn't take out a loan should be paying. That's like, are we going to now do it with mortgages? Why would that be any different?
I guess it wouldn't.
So, Chuck, I thank you. I don't have that far to go, as you know, but you're going to be helping me with the last leg of my mortgage, and this is what they're doing. They're making us responsible for other people's loans.
So
I think it's terrible.
I didn't know I'm paying your mortgage. We didn't.
Well, no,
we didn't negotiate this.
We didn't have to. If Biden does it,
you're just telling me I need to pay your mortgage.
No, I'm saying if Biden does it, that's what.
Harry, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
It would just happen.
I haven't seen you so long. I have to.
I know. You had to give it to me.
No, I never give it to you.
So
it's all done
out of love,
in fun and play.
I know.
Okay,
and I take it well.
Okay, you do.
So in terms of this next talking item, I think it's very important that existing home sales are on the decline. That's also rate specific, right?
Harry. So what happened during the month of March? Existing home sales in our country fell roughly 4.3%. As you mentioned, those mortgage rates went through 7.1%. New residential construction was down, Harry, about 15% from a month ago. The largest drop we have seen since April of 2020. So the question always at hand is: are you better off buying, or are you better off renting?
And renting has become a really big challenge.
But even saying that, what has happened is, if you looked at the 50 largest U.S. metro areas, the monthly cost of buying a starter home was 60% more than the cost of renting.
There you go.
So, and across all 50 regions, renting is a cheaper option than buying.
And rents aren't cheap.
No, so if you look at Austin, Texas, Seattle, Washington, and Phoenix, Arizona, Harry, those three metropolitan areas, clearly the biggest advantage there of renting, versus buying.
When we come back, one more power segment. We're another short break during the Malamut Show. We'll be back in just 3 minutes. We're going to talk about, or I should say, Chuck is going to talk about the cost of comfort next on the Hurley in the Morning program. Chuck Malamut presenting all about your financial matters, and a reminder to make an appointment to review your financial planning, all aspects, vacation planning, college building. Then you wouldn't have to worry about college loans. If you start that, so you're pregnant, you're going to have a child, get with Chuck now. Be paying into that for that college fund for 18 years before you need it. And it is remarkable what Chuck can set up for you in that regard. And, of course, retirement planning, all aspects. 609-383-2010. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hurley in the Morning.
We need proper representation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
I'm from Molucca Township.
Cape May.
I'm from Margate.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
We are back. Now, we will learn together exactly what this means. Chuck, the cost of comfort.
So, Harry, the cost of comfort, if you use, let's look at this calculation for a second. Using 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for saving out of your salary. There's your 100%. 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings. If you use that budgeting rule, Harry, sort of as your baseline, and if you look at the 100 largest cities in our country right now, Harry, 6 would require a combined salary. You are sitting down now.
I am sitting.
6 require a combined salary of $300,000 for a family of 2 adults and 2 children to live comfortably.
Isn't that crazy?
While less than $200,000 is enough to live comfortably in just 11 cities. So think about 100 cities. You have 6 where you have to earn $300,000 or more, and you have less than 11 earning $200,000. You've talked about it just before the break about college planning and other like. And can you ever imagine, a family of 4 needs $300,000 of earnings to maintain a lifestyle? So if you have that kind of a need, and 50% goes for shelter and housing and food and other like, and 30% of the things that you want to do, those want category, that other 20%, Harry, that's savings. What's that tell you about savings?
True.
It's going to be really tough.
Yeah, and I don't think many people right now are able to save 20%.
No, they're not.
No way.
What is the cost to go over the GW Bridge now?
I just did that not long ago. It wasn't cheap. It's a heavy 2-digit price tag. I mean, it's crazy. When you look at what's going on right now, the cost of food, the cost of energy. I mean, electricity, we're told, is going to be up over 28 or 29% this summer. That's just one bill that you have.
Oh, I believe that. That's for sure. So Harry, the speaking, trying to help, it's because money is tight in a lot of parts of the country. It's just amazing, Harry. If you look at the Fed fund rate, so we're right above that 5% number, and in a good quality insured savings account or a money market mutual fund, it's a very high probability you're going to be able to get close to that 5%, maybe even higher, without taking any risk. Harry, only 20% of savers in our country right now are earning more than 4%. 20%. All right? It should be, it's pretty easy to get to that 5% number. Harry, what percentage of savers do you think right now are earning either, we'll do this, less than 1, are earning either 0 or less than 1%? What percentage of that group, knowing that 22% are over 4, we'll call it?
What are you talking about under 1%? What are
earning 1%? And you have your money in the bank.
I see. Your
you have your money in a check.
You're talking
yields. Yes.
Oh God, nobody should be earning 1% right now in this market. But I know the number is going to be worse than it should be.
I'm going to help you. Yeah.
But that's bad. That's bad. They need Chuck Malamut. Nobody should be earning 1%.
So Harry, 20%, or I'm sorry, 17% of savers are earning less than 1%.
It's terrible.
Another 17% are earning 0%.
So they're just keeping their money in a demand deposit account with no interest.
Checking account.
Yeah, that's what that is.
So 35%, we'll call it, are earning less than, or earning 1% or less.
That's awful.
22% are earning 4% or more. So that difference between, the other 35% are somewhere in between. But it's just so, it doesn't take much to get to get your money, to work for you. And it's unfortunate that, people just say, well, I'm not, that's okay. I don't need to do that. But it's crazy, don't you think?
I do. I concur. I love all of these topics that we don't have time to get, but to maybe one or two of them. So I want to leave it to you to pick the one you want to do.
Well, I think we can. Why don't we just stay where we are? I mean, a lot of people, just got through their tax returns, and the age-old question is, am I going to get audited? And to what? And remember that, that whole.
Well, and the reason they feel that way, they see how government's sticking it to whoever they want to stick it to, and Biden hired more IRS people to harass middle-income.
Yeah,
tax filers.
So here's where you are, Harry. If your income is over $500,000 or less than $25,000, all right, less than 25, but over 500, you're twice as likely to get audited, all right, than those that have between 25 and 500,000.
There's a reason for that too.
Yeah, and those that have reported incomes of over $10 million are the most likely, obviously, to be audited. the average rate is about 2.4% of people in that category getting audited.
Chuck, if you could, do you really want to live in New York City?
I don't know, Harry. You tell me. I mean,
That
we
would
just
be a hard no.
We just talked about the cost of the GW Bridge,
Hard no.
and overdue property taxes in New York City have reached the highest level yet, Harry. 30% last year of unpaid property taxes is almost $1 billion and $880 million, Harry. And the increasing number of these delinquencies, and there's no consequences, for not paying, is going to cause a lot of problems for New York City. Half of the tax revenue for the city comes from these property tax collections. Yep. So how does the city manage?
I just saw a stat this morning. The city of Chicago has spent over $300 million on illegals. $300 million.
That's a lot of money.
It's insane. So. I love this question that you put it on your list. Will Trump and Biden debate? I know the answer to that. The answer is a hard no, and Biden will blame Trump as the reason that they can't debate.
So, Harry, a group of the major news organizations have all banded together to urge Biden and Trump to commit to participating in some sort of televised debates, before the upcoming November election. In 2020, there was an average of 68 million viewers that tuned in for the two debates.
Oh yeah,
all right,
it's big money.
If no debate is held in 2024, it's going to break a streak that goes all the way back
to 1976.
There you go. There you
proud
go.
of me?
I am very proud of you. Yeah, that's crazy. But so Biden's going to blame Trump.
Yes.
Okay. And the reason he's going to blame...
He will blame him. If he is a convicted felon, he'll say, I cannot debate a convicted felon. If he's not a convicted felon, I cannot debate an insurrectionist. He can't debate because he does not have the mental capacity to do that. He's at a stage now where he has to read a teleprompter and he has to read cue cards, and you won't be able to do that. So he won't be able to debate, and he cannot make it his deficiency. He'll have to blame it on the other guy.
Harry, really great seeing you.
Good seeing you.
The world is all in the right place now.
Things are going to turn around, not on the back.
I'm so happy to be part of the most listened to talk radio show.
Thank you, Chuck.
In South Jersey. And I never really did talk to you. Congrats on your talkers. I'm looking. You're now 25.
25.
It gets tougher and tougher
out of 100
every year. But you're going.
I'm very happy with that jump from 29 to 25.
We got to get you to the top 10.
WPGG
I don't know, Chuck.
Atlantic
I'm
City,
grateful where we are, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. 5 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamud has not yet left the building. He is regaling in the greatness of the program that is right now hermetically sealed, and it is with an armed caravan of large SUVs making its way to our nation's capital, to the Smithsonian Institution Radio Broadcast Wing. Chuck Malamud has now left the building. Chuck, have a great day. Bye. Oh, my gosh. 609-407-1450. I've been promoting that this hour you have a lease with an option to buy. It belongs to you. 609-407-1450, where we never raise the rent. 609-407-1450 to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I do want to at least say, because I know what's going to happen, all of a sudden we're going to take our first call, and then boom, it's going to be off to the races. So my goal was to take your calls for the entire, until Kilmeade. I was going to say the entire hour, but even into the next hour until Brian Kilmeade at 609-407-1450. But here's my opening comment real quick. And I will Siri tried to launch. I want you to call, but I'm going to share this until you do call. Do you find it as extraordinary as I do that there is a formal typed meeting agenda of the Atlantic City Board of Education? Now they have the chief school administrator with a bunch of child abuse criminal charges and her husband on top of that, and the principal of Atlantic City High School. Now, they suspended the principal, and as they should have. Nobody will say, but my sources tell me with pay, because that's what they do. They take care of who they want to take care of, and then they screw over whoever they want to screw over, and that's the way that they do it. But do you find it extraordinary? I do. And I say this as a parent. I say this as a young grandparent. Notice how I put the word young in there. I say it as a former Board of Education member. And if I speak for myself, without trying to be off-putting at all, I was a very good board member, took it very seriously, and did a very good job. And I liked it. I wouldn't do it now. It's beyond thankless. Or you have people in it for the wrong reasons, and that's Atlantic City. That board is so bad that I can't even exaggerate how bad that Board of Education is. But just this one quick comment, and then we'll go to your calls. 609-407-1450. You have your chief school administrator, the superintendent of public schools, an ex officio member of the board, ex officio member of all committees, that has multiple child abuse criminal charges. And her name is not on the agenda. Now, I think they're going to talk about her. You can always introduce new business, go into executive session, and then do what you need to do. Which, again, I'm not pushing this. I'm not wishing it. It's just this is what has to be done. You cannot, as an educator, no teacher could continue. The school principal couldn't continue. And I think it's an abomination that Laquetta Small has come into work this week pretending like nothing is wrong and that nothing happened. Somebody that was by the office, oh, no, she's not here. She's in the district. She's doing her job. Oh, really? That's what you're selling today? Who's buying that crap? That she reported back one day is a disgrace. And really what they do is they really put at risk everything, because how do you then discipline anybody else? If you're Constance Stace Chapman, you're wondering like, hey, what the hell, what's going on here? I did this for them, allegedly. And I'm suspended? And they go to work, these two? So you wait and see. What do they say? It all comes out in the wash. Put the Tide Pod in there, it'll all come out in the wash. And if you get a good Tide Pod, you can use cold water. You don't even have to use warm or hot water. It'll clean just as good. Cold water. No extra rinse. So just imagine that. Criminally charged with child abuse and reporting to work like nothing happened and not on the agenda. And I know they kept her off the agenda on purpose. They didn't want to have that public document, this discussion about Laquetta Small. They left it off on purpose. They're going to have to talk about it, though. And here's what I'll tell you. If they do the unthinkable and do not take any action, and she just shows up tomorrow, I can promise you, the state of New Jersey, the governor of New Jersey, the commissioner of education, the county superintendent's a joke because it's Corsi's wife. She's a good person, but in a bad position here. She's the best of the whole lot. And I'm not trying to do okey doke here and have funny, divide and conquer. She's the best of the whole lot. I don't even know her. Basically, I saw one photo of her when I wrote an article that was a gleaming article. But you can't have, Corsi's wife, Small's, first lieutenant, his wife, hey, we think everything's good. Nothing to see here. So I can promise you the state, they already should have taken action. The state should have come down and said, oh, you didn't suspend this individual? Well, that's happening right now. And if they don't do it, then they're complicit to all of this. To your call, 609-407-1450, an open phone line. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Harry. It's a great day in the city of Brigantine.
Thank you for that sunny report.
Well, I remember when this first hit the transom, this story, and I remember talking about this principal who was very tight with the Smalls, and I mentioned on the air that he got out from underneath that whole situation with the nephew or the cousin, so he'd be the first person you'd go to fix this situation. But little did we know at that time it was his actual daughter, that was the subject of this latest situation. But it's like they're all sticking together. It reminds me of when Bill Clinton said, I've got to get back to doing the work of the American people. In other words, how dare you ask me these questions and interrupt me when I'm doing the work of the people? How dare you? They just pretend it didn't even happen.
Right. He said, I never had sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I just need to go back to work for the American people. And his whole plan, it's you're very astute to draw the analogy, because the plan is, and he was guilty as sin. Thank God for the DNA, because as you know, Hillary and the whole gang, they were running the nuts and sluts strategy. They were absolutely going to eviscerate and destroy Monica Lewinsky. But thank God the sky blue dress had the presidential spillage, and the DNA could not be defeated. Otherwise, they would have absolutely ruined her, Andy.
Yeah. And while we're talking about the Clintons, I tried to get you yesterday, but then I had to hang up. You were talking about the whole Joe Biden-Hamas misunderstood situation.
Yes.
And it reminded me of when Hillary made the comment, and you can probably look this up even while I'm talking. Remember when Hillary talked about how we had to empathize with our enemies? Remember that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and we even had people like Rosie O'Donnell on The View saying that, these terrorists, they're just like everyone else, their parents, they have children and blah, blah, blah.
Right, they have incredible compassion for terrorists, but they have zero compassion for President Trump.
Harry, over the years, how many times have you heard someone talk about the Holocaust, and they ask the question, how could this have happened? Well, we're seeing how it could have happened, because it begins with talk. It begins with words, okay? And then it escalates from there. And the same people who have been calling you and I science deniers and climate deniers for years now are now denying that there's any anti-Semitism. They're denying that this is going on, just like the people denied the Holocaust. Even the Catholic Church and the New York Times, they denied that it was going on. And that's how these things happen again. Remember, never again? We heard this, never again, our whole lives, never again. But it's happening again. It's happening again.
What do you think so far of day one, if you will, part of the day, because it ended early with the toothache of one of the alternate jurors. But what are your thoughts early on of this?
Well, I heard that President Trump is going into a hearing even as we speak before they get to the trial.
Yeah, they at 9:30. Hold on. Don't go away, Andy. If you can hang in there, don't go away. I've got to get the break in. He's going in at 9:30. They've allotted from 9:30 to 11. And I did this in my opening monologue, so it's very fresh in my mind. They and I'm sure Marchand will craft something. He's going to find Trump in contempt of the gag order, without a doubt. He'll be found in violation of the gag order. But it's okay, though, because Michael Cohen is allowed to have interviews and say anything, and everybody else is too. Only Trump. It's always separate rules for Trump. So, yes, they have carved out an hour and a half. The trial will begin at 11, but they have from 9:30 until 11 o'clock to smack Trump around about and I'm sure he's going to get tongue-lashed by this creep Marchand. Maybe one last time he'll say, this is the last warning, you will be found in violation of the gag order. Something's going to happen because they never do nothing.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's the topics that matter to me.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the morning.
Get us someone in the White House that's actually going to do something.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
I just posed a question to a friend of mine. What is the over-under when Days Chapman and the two Smalls split with one another? And the reason that's going to happen, just if you follow my rule of thumb, and it's why I make these so-called predictions that are not really predictions. They're really more like math computations, calculations. They will split. Because Marty said they're not going to split. Oh, we're together. You can't divide us. No way you can. She's innocent of everything, and you can't split us. Okay. So what date are you going to split? Just understand. It's like Hillary saying Donald Trump loves Putin. He wants to jail his political enemies. No, that's projection. That's what you guys are doing. He's not doing that, and he didn't do it before. You're doing it. So what's the over-under? The only thing I can't give you is the date. But Constance Days Chapman's going to figure out, hey, wait a minute. What's going on around here? What's going on? She'll figure it out. Trust me. I can't tell you the date, but the split will happen. Andy, the question I posed to you right before the break was, Marchand is going, he won't just let this hearing happen. And Fat Bragg wants him found guilty of 10 violations of the gag order. Marchand's not going to do something like, no, I don't find any violation. He's going to do something. What's your prediction? And we'll know in the very near future. We'll probably know within about an hour and a half or less. What's your prediction of what Justice, isn't that funny? That's his title, because he's in Justice. Justice Juan Marchand. What is his decision going to be, Andrew?
Well, I have to tell you that this guy is getting off, and maybe in a sexual way, he's getting off on telling Trump to sit down and boss him around. I mean, everybody just wants to slap this man around. I think he's gonna call him out. And he's probably going to try to, dress him down and give him one last stern warning.
That's the most likely scenario. But I think he might split the baby. I think he's not going to give Marchand 10 incidents and then $10,000. Each one is $1,000. Really, if you're Trump, and if all you got was $1,000 fine, you don't care. You're going to violate that thing anytime you want. It's worth it. That's like entertainment value, and also getting your truth out when they're trying to get lies out about you. So it's a good investment to only have to pay $1,000. But at some point, Marchand could say, I'm going to lock you up. That would be, I swear, I think it was, who was it? One of the, I can't remember who it was, Kilmeade or Greg Gutfeld, one of the Fox people, said they think Trump should just test this gag order all the way. And can you imagine if Juan Marchand jailed President Trump for violating a gag order, can you imagine not only the spectacle, I promise you the benefit that would be for Trump getting locked up would be off the charts.
Harry, I'm reminded of the scene from Seinfeld when George was in the movie theater and the kids were kicking the chairs and they were laughing during the movie and talking, and he got up and he flipped out and he said, "Go ahead, because I would love it." He said, "If you think I'm kidding, just try me." Donald Trump, listen, I would love it if he dared him. Put me in jail. Go ahead, because the commercials will make themselves. Because ultimately, this whole thing is going to be overturned. And as someone might have been Megyn Kelly said, no judge, as much as the judge wants to go after Trump and get him, he also doesn't want to be overturned. No judge wants that. Who was the judge who's got how many things that he did were overturned? Was it? I forget which judge it was, but no judge wants to be overturned.
But you know what, though? This is a rare exception. They know they're going to be overturned, Andy, and they're doing it anyhow because their desire is to mark him up now. You take his time away, which he can never get back. You take his money, and you try to get the conviction. And even if you don't, I guarantee you, even if it's just them privately, they will say, it was all still worth it, though. Look what we did. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. No, he knows he's going to be overturned because look at the decisions he's made. They didn't get to know witnesses with enough time to plan. They needed more time to plan their case. He wouldn't give it to them. All of that is in favor of the defendant, never in favor of the government. A speedy trial is if the defendant wants a speedy trial. Everything you could possibly do to get overturned, they've done. And he knows he's going to get overturned, but they realize it will be after the fact.
But the goal isn't jail. The goal is to keep him off the campaign trail, as you say. And
if they get the conviction, and then they can call him a convicted felon. Oh, we can't debate you. You're a convicted felon. You're an insurrectionist, and you're a convicted felon. Oh, sorry, I would debate you, but no, I can't. This is the presidency. No, I really am sorry we can't have a debate. Meanwhile, he's so incoherent, Biden can't debate. But they want, I think one of the biggest things they want is to be able to test that theory that if he's convicted, that his support melts away. That's what they really want to test.
Harry, it's the Harry Reid thing. Romney didn't win, did he? They know everything they're doing is wrong. It's not going to stand. But if they get the end result of having him lose the election, then it was all worth it. But here's the thing, and I know I've beaten this dead horse so many times. If you believe a man is being unjustly accused, if you believe the charges are bogus and they should never have happened, then why would the man being convicted of those bogus charges make you then change your vote? It's going to make you even angrier, and it's going to make them circle the wagons.
I agree, but I think there's a number of independents that may have been open to Trump when he was just accused that will then close the door. No, they think they're grasping because they see what's happened. They've been shocked at what's happened just at this stage. They can't believe that with every indictment, his numbers improved. Let me tell you how good this is right now and why that Democrat that I quoted, the analyst in the 6 o'clock hour of my monologue, said that Biden's path is so narrow. Trump got 232 electoral votes in 2020. That's a low watermark. That was a lot of things going bad. Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona. It all went bad and very, very close, but it was kind of like opposite of Trump, Hillary Clinton, when Trump won all these battleground states by such close margins. Trump basically only needs to pick up 2 states. I think he'll win Georgia. That's 16. So 232 plus 16. You're 19 short. Well, how about Pennsylvania? I think Trump has a really, really good chance to win Pennsylvania. Now, I believe he's going to win Nevada. And if this 1864 abortion question didn't come up in Arizona, Arizona was in the bag. But let's just say he wins Pennsylvania and Georgia and the 232 electoral votes that he won in 2020. That's Trump at 270. Trump is going to be the next president. And, Andy, the Democrats know it. And that's why this desperation game of criminally charging him, they can't beat him, so they have to try to destroy him.
Well, it's the lockdown situation again. You can't lock down the voters, so you lock down the candidate. The end result is the same. The people, you either keep the people from voting for him either way. If he, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to do the COVID thing again, but in reverse. You're not quarantining the voters. You're quarantining the candidate. But Biden's chances, as Dan Rather once said about someone else, that his chances are slim and none, and Slim just left town.
Well, it's true, and Biden knows it. That's why this whole crazy campaign that he's running, this silly, almost zany craziness that we see, Trump is going to win all the states that he won in 2020. They're already won. This means he's just got to win 2 of probably 7. Andy, I'm telling you, this couldn't look better, and they know it. That's why they're trying to make it look so bad. And then their current ploy is also shaming Trump voters. Like, how can you vote for him? That's their new game.
I heard Morning Joe the other day say that, you're voting for a guy who does nothing but say how the country sucks. He said, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm thinking, really? Barack Obama spent 8 years telling us how much the country sucks.
Oh, yeah. He said we were just a nation that was garbage that had to apologize to the whole world. Oh, it was so true what you're saying. Andy, I've got to get the halftime break in. To be continued. We're exactly at 33 minutes past the hour, and you will be next. Don't you go away. You'll be right after that. We're going to get all of your calls in at 609-407-1450, an open phone line. Mark Levin, he'll tell you a little bit about Joe Biden, I suspect.
Mark Levin.
The greatest danger to you, my fellow Americans, is Joe Biden. He's destroying our economy. He's destroying our supply chain. He's destroying our energy system. He's destroying small business. He wants to tax you into oblivion. He wants your money. The only reason they want to raise taxes is so they can control you, so they can control what you earn.
Mark Levin on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. For complete contest rules, visit WPGTalkRadio.com. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's well-balanced conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We are back 39 minutes past the hour, 609-407-1450. Phone lines are open. Tom McAdam, don't you go away. I see you there. Dan, welcome to Hurley in the morning. You're on the air.
Three statements I think you'll like. I'm Joe Biden. I'm running for the Senate. Give me a look. Number 2, I'm Joe Biden. I'm running for Congress. And number 3, and the worst one, I'm Joe Biden. Send me back to the White House, and I'll finish the job.
Ooh, yeah. Let's remove that one. But yeah, I it really inspires confidence when the sitting president of the United States says that he would like you to reelect him to Congress. It's really warm, isn't it? To remove any doubt whether you could have any question that there's a mental acuity issue, because it's classic. He remembers being in Congress. He doesn't remember being the president. And that's not me saying it. He says it.
It's an amazing story. You kind of think that there's somebody with a sense of humor feeding the teleprompter.
Do you know the movie? It's Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler, whatever, 21st Dates, or I forget exactly what it's called, and I might be mixing the title up with another movie. But she has she can't remember anything. She has this, whatever it's called, short-term memory issue or whatever. Can't remember things. So every morning she watches a video, And then it shows her that, hey, she is married and she has a child, and there's the child. And then she comes up, to the boat from the bottom level, the sleeping quarters, and then she knows it's time for breakfast, and she knows, I'm married. So every day she, it's not 21st dates. It's, you know what I mean. It's like Joe Biden. The thing. It's the thing. I just can't think of the movie, but I know the movie. That's Joe Biden. I guarantee you, every day he has to do a routine. Hey, I'm the president. 50 first dates. Thank you, Joe Kelly. I was close. I said 20 first dates. 50 first dates is even worse. Anyhow, Dan, that's what we've got. Every morning, like they put on a DVD, and he just sits there and watches it. Okay, all right, okay, I'm ready to go now. That's what we've got. It's really inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll leave you with this, Mayor. The third man in justice. Just remember, there's no collusion between the White House and the state governments.
Oh, no. You just have the third man from the Biden Justice Department trying the former president in New York City. That's a normal thing, that federal guys go down to the local level like this. It's so transparent. It's almost like the worst bully or the worst example of a bad actor. Not only do they want the result that they want you to know it's them. So when Biden's on the campaign stump and he says that that Trump is busy these days, and they all laugh together, they all know it's an open secret. It's a joke. They all know that the fix is in here.
So Colangelo gives the opening argument of all things, right? So it's just like you said, it's right in your face.
Yep.
And then if you look at Fannie Willis and Wade, not only did they make the trips to Washington that were billed at Georgia taxpayer expense, they billed the people in Washington, the president and his crew, for 16 hours of consultation, because obviously the White House is running Georgia and Elise running New York, and probably was involved in some of the other little things. They're everywhere. That's what, and Biden declared it. November 9th, 2022. That man won't be president, basically, and I'll do everything constitutionally to make sure he doesn't be president. He said it.
Yeah, and he did it. Yep.
Well, hopefully, we could have a lot more toothaches, and Donald Trump could get a break here and there.
Oh, yeah. If we get a toothache a day, the trial is going to go really fast. Every day it'll be over at 12:30. Dan, have a great day. Thanks for the call. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You are on the air. Hi there.
Yes, I want to bring up a brilliant nuclear physicist by the name of Warner Hettierachi and his street creds first before I give the skinny of what he said about climate change. He's a major contributor to sustainable and stable electrical grid using 21st century technologies in Canada. Because of him, Ontario has a clean electricity grid with a range of diverse resources, including hydro, nuclear, natural gases, and renewables. It's not because of that dumb called Justin Trudeau. Okay, now he said that there is climate change. It's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. And he says the microcosm is the changing seasons, but it's a highly complex system. It changes. You can't just localize what's going on in one particular part of the world and just make that across the board of what's going on the whole globe, on all 7 continents. He says it's like reading the last page of a book and then reading out loud the last page of a book and then telling everybody what the whole book's about without letting them read the whole book. And he talked about it, people, and there are 2 types of people. There's people that actually are in a panic about climate change, and there's that crowd that never lets a good crisis go to waste. Now, the deforestation that's going on in the Amazon forest actually does prevent the absorption of CO2. However, human beings are not the major contributors of CO2 because every living thing besides plants and trees breathes out CO2, carbon dioxide. So it's way more complex than people have an understanding of. He goes into the complex things about ice core samples and geolithic renderings of what they found in the earth and so forth and so on. He's like a brilliant guy, but he says a lot of it's scare techniques, scare tactics to keep us all in line. So that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Flash. Appreciate that. 609-407-1450, an open phone line, 45 minutes past the hour. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. Brother Tom, how are you, my friend?
Morning, Harry. Long time no talk.
Too long. Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. A while back, the hot topic of conversation was about Trump and his financial statements. Is it too late to comment on that?
It's never too late. Time is yours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A day of
Tom, we're losing you, but I think we're going to get you back. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. You're back. It went a little crazy there for a second,
Okay.
but we got you, Tom. Go.
In the heyday of the construction industry and the casinos and all, we had my company had a pretty aggressive construction schedule, and based on that, we had a good number of employees, and based on the cash flow, I needed to help me with carrying some of the payroll during that time, and I had a line of credit with two of our local banks in excess of $1 million. And at the time, I was also courted by a couple of banks in Philadelphia because of my track record with paying my bills with the bank and having a good line of credit. So to get that, I had to submit not only a corporate line of financial statement, but a personal, because I was owner of the company. And those financial statements listed, obviously, my personal and corporate holdings, along with real estate, stocks, bonds, and all, etc. That financial statement was scrutinized by the bank financial department and their legal department. And I just, for the life of me, don't understand why they have an issue with Trump when he had the same thing.
Well, yes, you do. And I'm going to explain it anyhow, but yes, you do know, because everything you said is true, and everything that President Trump has said about this is true. Any financial that he ever turned over to do a deal, to get a mortgage, to get a line of credit, to do any of it, it was always predicated, and it was in the paperwork. The very paperwork they're using to try to take him down has in there the responsibility of the bank to do their own due diligence. That this is our consideration of what we believe this to be worth, but they have that declaratory statement about the due diligence of the bank. And of course, all the banks, they're not stupid. As you know, I used to be a banker, and we did some big deals in the very large 8 and beyond figure range. And we knew if we were going to do it, that the deal made sense. If it was collateralized or if it was not, we knew that the deal made sense, based on the numbers. So you don't just take the applicant's word for it. You do your own due diligence, and they all did, and every bank was paid back, and not a single bank got beat at all. They want to do more business with them. And so, in other words, these are victimless crimes, and they're not even crimes. They've never been prosecuted before. They are purely selecting. It's very Soviet-esque style, like the henchman for Stalin, Beria. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. They just decide, like that idiot Engoron that says that Mar-a-Lago. I've been to Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago, I can promise you, is worth a lot more than $18 million that Engoron valued it. This is the kind of quackery that Trump dealt with, and he's going to win that whole thing on appeal as well, Tom.
Yeah, I would agree. The other thing, Harry, what do you think? I mean, you're able to size up people and detect things. What are the odds that you think that Biden has Parkinson's?
Oh, no, he doesn't have Parkinson's. There's no tremors or anything like that. No, he has. I'm not qualified to say this, but if you ask me what I think, I believe he has, and he's not in the early stages anymore. He has dementia or Alzheimer's. This is a mental acuity issue. And I personally think that it largely, because he's got older brothers and slightly younger brothers that are just fine. Biden had that near-death experience with the aneurysms, made an amazing recovery from it. But if you do any reading, and I've done a lot of reading on it, Tom, that kind of traumatic brain injury, you are very susceptible to Alzheimer's or dementia, some type of mental acuity issue. I don't believe it's Parkinson's at all. No.
I just thought one of the symptoms or
no, if you think about it, Parkinson's, if you think about Muhammad Ali, for example, and I was around him quite a bit with President Trump in those days, he had the tremors and he had the issue with his speech, but the brain function never became an issue. It's not a declining thing from a mental acuity standpoint. It becomes a problem in terms of being able to verbalize. So that's a whole different situation than what we see with Biden. If you think about it, Biden shuffles. He's got a problem with his gait. He falls down a lot. He forgets things. He tells these crazy stories that are just wild, like his bossy, the uncle that got eaten by cannibals, only no, he didn't. I mean, this is, he walks off the stage in awkward moments. He shakes the hands of people that aren't there. Can't remember things from the recent past, but can remember stories from 30 and 40 years ago. I mean, he's textbook, Tom.
Yeah, I just thought that his gait and his lack of moving his arms when he walks was one of the
Nope.
One of the symptoms now?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. This is all textbook mental acuity stuff.
Okay. And the last but not least is my observation with the United States supporting Israel for all the obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But don't they, doesn't the average person see this as their proxy war with Iran?
Well, the average person does, but what they're hoping, see, this is how strategic and really just disgusting this Joe Biden is. And it's not even him. He doesn't even know what day it is. It's this creepy crew, these Obama bots and all these bad people that are truly running the whole show. They have to win Michigan. They have to win Minnesota. They are pandering to the worst possible elements that you could do to keep the radical fringe of their base on board. They cannot afford to lose Michigan and Minnesota. That's what this is all about.
Okay, that makes sense.
Good to talk to you, my friend.
Thanks, Harry. Stay well, buddy.
You too, Tom. Good to talk to you. The great Tom McAdam of McAdam Electric fame. 54 minutes past the hour. You're going to be the next caller. We've just got to take our final break, and then we're wide open until Kilmeade at 6 minutes past the top of the next hour. It is the Hurley in the Morning program. You're listening to South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio, 95.5. Tell a friend that this is the place to be.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning.
It's a woke society, and I'm fed up with it.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPGG Atlantic City. WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back. But what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
Mays Landing.
I'm from Mullica Township.
Listen at home or in the office on your smart speaker. Just say, play WPG.
HD.
Ocean City.
Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station. WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. It is a minute before the top of the hour. Wow, has this flown by? We call it the fastest 4 hours and 6 minutes in media. And today, well, you never disappoint, but today did not disappoint. What a great time I've had here today with you. And guess what? In 19 hours and 54 minutes, I guess we have to add 6 minutes to that because I usually say that 6 minutes from now. We get to do this all over again. And we've got a really, really nice program already show prepped, and of course we'll add to it. There'll be things that will happen, such as what will the Atlantic City Board of Education do? Oh, listeners have been asking me. The first court appearance of Constance Days Chapman is tomorrow. The first court appearance of Marty and LaQuetta Small regarding their myriad of criminal charges will be on May 15th. That is also a Wednesday. To your calls we go, 609-407-1450. Welcome to the Hurley in the Morning program. You're on the air. Caller, may I help you? All right, if we're having one of those cross-ups where you can hear me but I can't hear you, just call us back. 609-407-1450, and we'll be happy to take your call. So another listener wrote me, and I checked it out during the break, what's happening right now with President Trump in New York City. Here's what I can tell you. 9:30 this morning, Judge Merchan began a hearing. This is at the request of Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg is presenting to Judge Merchan what he says are 10 instances where President Trump has violated the judge's gag order in the case. See, what they want it all. They want it where they want it, the judge they want, the prosecutor they want, the venue that they want, charges that they want, not be able to tell the defendant what the charges are, not tell him who the witnesses are. I mean, things we've never seen before. And they're all going for this stuff. I mean, I'm serious. I cannot wait. I mean, I want him to be vindicated, but if he's not, the appeal will be swift and glorious. This is so improper. I don't think it's ever happened to a defendant in American history. You always know what the charge is. He doesn't even know what the charge is because Bragg is bootstrapping something that he doesn't even have the authority to do, but the judge is just fine with it. And I guess that's in between breaks when he calls his daughter to ask her how her anti-Trump activities are going. I mean, it's almost beyond verbalizing. So my prediction is, and I'm usually pretty good at this, Merchan will do more than nothing, but less than what Alvin Bragg wants. I just can't imagine. He's trying to pretend like he's fair, even though he still hasn't told President Trump whether he can go to his son's graduation. You get to graduate from high school one time. He still doesn't know. I promise you, Merchan is going to let him go. Because that's when they're at all the beautiful parties, he can laugh and say, look how I make it look like I'm fair. And I let him go. But I didn't tell him right away. Look at me. So this is their game. Their game is, the system is really working. It doesn't matter who you are. It really works. Yeah, sure it does. So I say he will... And this could be like a Dean Vernon Wormer type of stern warning to Blutarski and company. Remember 0.0, the lowest in Faber history? And Belushi's given double thumbs up. He's proud of himself with the 0.0 average. Of course, he became a senator, Senator Blutarski. So it worked out well. And not a state senator, a United States Senator Blutarski. So these things can work out, Horses die, but, these things in all four legs up, but this can happen in the dean's office. But he'll give some stern warning because he really loves to tell Trump to sit down and, like he's big man Merchan, Juan Merchan. superhero. So he'll, I think, issue a very stern warning that no further transgressions, violating the court order, the gag order, will be tolerated. He'll remind him not only that's $1,000, per incident, but that also he could jail him. That's to really send all the beautiful people to nirvana. You got to have something like that in there. Got to threaten the jail. The don't make me do this. I don't want to do this. That kind of thing. Time to take one more call before we close this popsicle stand and invite Brian Kilmeade to take over the microphone. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. Caller, you are on the air. Hi there.
Hi, good morning, Harry. Quick question.
Yes.
I think the American people are little bit confused and upset because you wonder how something like this can happen to an ex-president. Why wouldn't there be the higher court, which would be the Supreme Court, or if there's another one below that could say enough is enough?
Here's why. It's a great question. They are the courts of last resort. They don't come swooping down and proactively stop something. You've got to appeal. They grant what's called like certiorari, and they grant standing before the Supreme Court after a decision is made, and they can be the arbiter of that decision. Remember, all of our laws are written that government will do right. It's never, ever conceived that they will intentionally do wrong. So Trump's appeals start at a lower level. They can't start at the top. Even if Trump tried to appeal right to the Supreme Court on certain things, they will occasionally take a case. They have taken the January 6th type case, and they've taken Trump's case on immunity because it's at that level that they believe that they should get in there right away. On something like this, they'll wait. Unfortunately, his appeals start after he's convicted, if he's convicted. And I think it's more likely that he will be convicted. The other result would be a hung jury. There will not be, I don't believe, in New York City, an acquittal. So that's my answer in 2 minutes. Call me again when we can talk longer, and have a great day.